If you borrow from a point of desperation, people are going to come and banja you from points of desperation, and they're going to cut your hands off. They do it. Middle income have the biggest problems. All of us here are one emergency away from poverty. And Uganda, it came to 15%. We sustained 15 days without a paycheck. Those loan apps are regulated by UMRA, not Bank of Uganda. So my first thing with loan apps, I know they can be useful, but I know that they can be twice dangerous. Their two main problems are they have high interest rate. Their second bigger problem is that they have short repayment periods. So while you might think that this looks like a gift, it's really not a gift. It can be a curse. They give you just enough that makes you think I can pay this back. Before you know it.
What should a person know when they are walking into a bank if they need to take a loan?
When you go to a bank and ask them for 100 million, they don't give you 100 million. No, there are hidden fees also inside there.
And when the time for repayment comes, you're repaying on the total 100.
The total, exactly.
Not the 70 in your account.
No. Their calculation is based on the total.
And this is legal?
About them. Yes, it's legal. People forget that Sudhir is Indian. The foundation of the wealth of Indians is saving. I literally start saving for Christmas in January. That other money is there because I have savings. I can go on a cruise tomorrow and point at your number because I planned for that cruise. There are people, by the way, Herbert, let me tell you this. There are people who go to those bars. They seemingly look like they fit in those classes, and they are spending no money at all. Am I also rich people? There's like a level above which people have their heads. They don't pay a single thing. Now for you, you come thinking that person maybe is paying also, is in that. So you also want to be there and fit in. You're paying your bill. The bill comes back, it has 36 million for one night. Then they say, let us take it around. Before you know it, you've paid 3 million shillings for the night until they've split. The other two who you thought were in your category haven't paid a cent.
Thank you for coming on the show, Pumla. I'm very excited to have you here. Today we're going to talk about financial literacy. For those who do not know you, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, thank you for having me, Herbert. I'm always honored when I'm called to empower people. My name is Pumla Nabachwa. I serve as an economist at Bank of Uganda. I'm also a certified financial literacy educator. And for the context of this conversation, I'm passionate about empowering Ugandans with the knowledge, skills, and confidence to make better financial decisions for themselves so that all round they can have better lives. That's who I am. I'm also a mother to a teenage son.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How is that working out?
That's why I always mention it. I always tell people that that's my real job.
Yes.
Because everything else, I have already set structures for it.
Yes.
The other one is the one that throws me ball curves, because there's one thing to be a mother to a teenager, a parent to a teenager. Mm-hmm. There's another thing to be a parent to a teenager of the other gender.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. We are going through it.
Yes.
Yeah, love it. That's my real job. I say it last, but that's my real job. Yeah.
I like that. Tell me, we have had, I know for sure, I've had severally, people saying financial literacy is very important.
It is.
And people should know about financial literacy. I've had many people sitting across from me, and one of the key things they mentioned that they wish they knew or had started earlier was financial literacy. Yeah. So for our viewer who is, has not known about financial literacy or is still wondering the importance of this thing, please break it down for us as to why people should be financially literate.
Okay, let's break down the words financial and literacy. Mm-hmm. Financial comes from finances. Finances comes from money. So literacy is literature. Literature is education. So it is money education. Money education meaning, how do I manage my money? And let's be clear, this, if you're here to learn how to get rich, this is not the episode. This is how I am not rich, but I need to manage my money better. I need to make my money work for me. I need to be financially secure. Or I am rich, but I need to still continue to grow my money, or I need to be more financially secure. Many Ugandans, and people at large, let's not limit it to Ugandans, When you ask them, what would you like to be when you grow up? People would say, I want to be rich.
Of course.
But you must be rich sustainably. Sustainable riches is what gives you wealth. You cannot get wealthy without financial discipline, without planning, and without being disciplined. You can get rich even today. You can get a billion shillings in a lottery or in a great deal today, and we will term you rich. But are you financially secure is the question. All of us here are one emergency away from poverty. What financial literacy does, or the education of how to manage money does, is help you get out of poverty. If you're out of poverty, it helps you climb notches higher into where you want to be. If your aim is to be, we all have different goals, different money goals. Not everybody wants to be wealthy. Not everybody wants to be wealthy.
True.
But everybody needs to be financially secure. Financially secure meaning from financial security is financial independence and then financial freedom. So you decide which of those ladders you want to be. Financial independence, just meaning, and that's the one I advise, it's the path to financial freedom. But the difference is that with financial independence, it means that you're able to meet all your money needs of yourself and everybody who depends on you, without relying on any external sources. That's what financial independence is. Financial freedom, on the other hand, means that you don't have to work anymore. Your money now keeps working for you. But those are long-term goals. So as we look at, let's start by being financially secure. And that's what we are teaching. How can you have money today and not claim that it is not enough to meet the need at the end of the month, that you have more month than you have money? That's what we don't want. And everybody in their different bitiwa, So financial literacy is literally just teaching Ugandans how to make their money work for them in whatever goal they have chosen to set, in whatever financial goal they have chosen to set for themselves. And that's mostly the planning, setting financial goals, planning, budgeting, saving, borrowing, debt, saving for investment. Investment is the one I know many people like to hear about because that's the one they think gets them rich. But how do you stay rich? Not get there. This is not a class about getting rich. It's not a scheme. I know we like get rich quick schemes. This is not a scheme. It is now I am here. How do I stay here? Money. I have this money. What do I do with it so that in time to come, I don't feel uncertain? We are trying to eliminate financial uncertainty. That's what financial literacy is trying to eliminate. And when someone asks me, why should this matter? I tell them, financial literacy, because it's money education. I have a mantra, which is, to be better, you must do better. To do better, you must know better. You can only know better if someone teaches you. So this is the lesson.
I like that.
This is the lesson. The point of financial literacy is to equip people with knowledge. Knowledge, number one. Skills and tools, number two. And then confidence to make better financial decisions for themselves. That's just, in a nutshell, what financial literacy is.
Would you say, usually what I've seen is when people get money, come into this huge lump sum of money, that's when they start thinking, what should I do? How should I invest, etc.? And they end up making the wrong steps.
Yes.
And hence the saying, come easy, go easy. Right?
Yes.
Are you saying that before you have even received this money, you hope and have faith that you're going to get this money, right? But as you wait, start teaching yourself, get this knowledge, so that when the money comes, you already know what to do with this.
What to do with it.
Is this what you're saying?
This is what I'm saying. And I just want to say that we were disadvantaged. This generation was disadvantaged because nobody taught us about money.
True.
So we should never, why your mind has gone to, should I be in the hope that I'll get money, is because when you were being given pocket money, nobody was helping you plan or budget for it. But now we have children. It's not that they should hope. By the time your children are adults, they must have savings. They must have money already in place that they saved from a certain source. You are their primary guardian. You are their parent. You are giving them money for something. A child cannot go to boarding school from S1 to S6 and still have nothing to save. It should never be that. So, my starting point, to be fair, is 100,000 Uganda shillings.
You should have this at least.
If for somebody to be able to start personal financial management, they must have 100,000 Uganda shillings in this current economic lives.
So if
anything below, I'm not equipped to help. Why do I say 100,000 Uganda shillings? It's because that's the minimum requirement of money that people can invest in safe assets, which are government securities. Yes. And unit trusts have given us one better. If you go to unit trusts now, or CI's collective investment schemes, theirs is 10,000 shillings. Actually, that 100,000 used to be mine before we got a gap filler, which was the unit trusts. So anybody with 10,000 Uganda shillings now is able to participate in personal financial management because all you need is 10,000 shillings to put aside, which is what your children should be doing. By the time they become adults, they have enough to continue investing on their own, because this is both a savings and an investment. You earn interest on this saving. It's not just plain. So yeah, that's what I'm saying, that at whatever tier or level you are, for as long as you have over 10,000 Uganda shillings, you can make your money work for you.
You have no excuse.
You have no excuse. That's what I'm saying. You don't look like you believe me.
No, I'm in realization shock.
Yeah, and you see, Herbert, it's not just about. So why I said that we were a disadvantaged generation is because we've had to now change our money mindset as adults. All we were taught when we were growing up was how to make. We want to make money. But the best thing I know Ugandans know how to do is to make money. They know how to make it, and we know how to spend it.
I know.
Nothing in between.
Yeah, true.
Nothing in between. We think we have an idea,
true,
but nobody has guided us or helped us through it. So who do we listen to?
True.
We come to podcasts here. There's reading. We go to people who have made it in life and get lessons from them, forgetting that those people are not telling you the whole story.
True.
And you pick what you think works for you. True. We call it personal financial management for a reason. It is personal. Your journey, Herbert, your journey is not my journey.
True.
Hassan's journey is not my journey. Lawrence's journey is not your journey. You must figure out the journey that works for you. But it should be backed up by a certain kind of education, which you should have got while your mind, your brain was still forming. If you get this education past the mistake-making era, which is between the age of 19 years old to 25 years old. You see, when you're studying finances, you have to understand that it is more about it's more than finances. There's also emotional and psychological. We are human beings. I cannot tell you stop thinking about everything else and concentrate about money. If you're not in a good emotional space, you might maybe spend impulsively, so you must have a full grip of yourself mentally. So 19 years old to 25 years old, that's the stage at which the brain is going through its last stage of development. That is why we are allowed to start voting after 18. People don't know why the age 18 exists. Why we can now go to jail at 18, why you can be convicted, why you can vote, and why you can consume alcohol. It's because after the age of 18, there's a gap there where now you make mistakes because your brain is in that last stage of realization, of formulation, of implementation. After that stage, we are usually stuck in our ways. So your money mindset remains between making money and spending money. So we make money so that we can spend it. That's where most of us, our mindsets are. We want to spend money, but I can't spend money if I don't have it. So I try to make more money so that I can spend it, forgetting there's a whole area here on managing that money before you go to this stage. But now that we know better, we can teach our children to do better. For us, we are learning and trying to change our money mindset as adults, over 30, over 40, over 50 years old. People who have gone to retire, and you know that you're going to retire in 5 years, and you still don't know how to make that leap because you've not prepared yourself financially. But now I have met a 25-year-old who has a retirement fund, believe it or not.
Wow.
I was so impressed by her. And I asked her, is this something you taught yourself? And she said that, no, my mother has always empowered me. So I have money set aside for a time. In her head, she says, there's going to be a time when I cannot make money in the same way or in the same pace that I'm making it. She's just 25, so she's at the point when she's making the least money she will ever make in her life, possibly. But there will be a point when she's 40, inshallah, and she's making much more money. But that small money, compound interest, compound. Someone who has started saving at 25, that goal will be retirement, but now she'll be able to have other financial goals. She can decide to buy an Airbnb. She can decide to build a house. She can decide to start a business, to fund her own business, so she doesn't have to borrow, and then keep that retirement fund somewhere. And one day she will see that money. We are 25, she'll turn 60 one day, and it will happen. So we are trying to bridge the gap between spending money, making money, and spending money. We are trying to give you what to do in between. That's it. From as little as 10,000 Uganda shillings. Today, 2025. This podcast is going to be here forever. So someone may listen to this 10 years from now. It may not still be 10,000 because of inflation. But in 2025, it's 10,000 Uganda shilling.
The first, I would say, common money struggle that people have, a common comment that you mentioned about the month, people say that money is not enough. So in your experience and all the trainings that you have done, or meet people you've met, what is, I would say, the most common mistake that you see people making regarding maintaining this money?
I would say not tracking our spending. I think the biggest mistake we make, and then it starts at not tracking, and then it causes so many other problems underneath. Tracking expenses, meaning that, as I said before, we know how to make money and to spend it, but people don't know where their money is going.
True.
We don't budget, and even when we do, we don't stick to our budgets. That's the bigger problem. I've seen people budget, but if you ask them, do you stick to your budget? And then there's a tendency to under budget. You don't really want to put in the price of that lipstick that you put, the correct price. You are buying it at 150,000, but you're not really putting it there. You're putting cosmetics and bundling everything up in there. The biggest I've seen is expenses. We're not tracking expenditure because of different reasons associated with our culture. Our culture has two main things that are disturbing us that we need to find a workaround. The first one being the fact that we are responsible for supporting our extended family, what we call black tax. Nobody puts it in a budget. No one puts that money in a budget. Our money mindset, mind is wired to take care. The budget of a firstborn son looks different from the budget of a lastborn daughter. You'll find this man who is a firstborn and taking care of his siblings, probably, his relatives. Remember also him, someone helped him and paid for him somewhere. That generational responsibility impacts our financial management, but there are workarounds and there are ways around it. One of the biggest problems that gives us, I've said this before and I'll never be ashamed to say it again, black tax gives people permission to have children that they cannot afford. Because when I'm here seated in Kampala, I'm working for 3 families. This other family has no idea that they are encumbering me. They are given a thought and a cultural mindset that I owe them. I must do for them because I'm doing better. That's the mindset we have here in Kampala. That when I come and borrow money from you, Herbert, when I come and ask you to lend me money because you're in a better financial position, I have more right to get that money from you than you have to say no to me. And our relationships get severed. Because me, I have decided that I can't afford to give you that money. And then you see me posting a picture on Instagram when I've gone on a cruise. But I didn't give you 300,000. There is a cultural misalignment.
Disconnect.
There's a disconnect. There's a disconnect. And you see, it was all right. There was a place for it at a certain point in time before we transitioned into this largely capitalistic place. It's giving, you must do for us. So in your budget, there must be money, but there are healthy ways to do it. I learned this from my father, that you can love your family from far. One of the biggest from a distance. My father was with the last born child of his mother, and then his mom died when he was a baby. So he was looked after, and in that time, girls' education was not taken as significantly as boys' education. So he was the youngest and he was a boy. So he had older girl siblings who had to drop out of school to pay for his fees. When my dad grew, he became the successful one of the chalo. So he felt obligated to extend a hand back. You know what they say, when people open for you that door, when you cross, leave the door open for other people to pass. That was his theory, which is a great Ubuntu theory. The question is, how do you do it? If you leave the door open for everybody to come inside your home, it takes away your freedom to make decisions for yourself that push you into another tier of income. You keep staying in middle income. That's why most of us remain in middle income. That's why the most of the world stays in middle income, and predominantly Africans. Because all the money that you should have been doing the saving and investing in, you're sending back. There are cheaper ways to do it. You can have these people in different schools or in boarding schools. They don't have to come to your home. You can distribute and say, you know what, I know I have this amount, but for me, I'm going to take care of medical bills. Full stop. Somebody else finds something else to do. Somebody else says, me, I want to take care of education for 2 kids. That's it. Because the more you keep opening the door for this whole community and family to walk in, the more the ones who now they say, they've gone. Let me have other children. They keep having children that you keep having to pay for.
I agree.
But let me tell you, once you cut that tap, people will become aware. You just have to find a loving way to do it.
And do people have the guts to actually cut that?
They have the guts to cut that. And this is the motivation I like to give people. The problem with that is that now when you get to an age where you cannot make income as fast anymore, who do you start relying on? Your children. Children are not a financial plan. They're not a retirement plan. They should never be. So because you have no savings, you have no money, now you put the burden, the generational responsibility passes down to your children. That means your children will never be rich because they have to look after you and their children at the same time and other children. But if you're able to help, when you're helping, make a budget and say, me, I have this budget to save for later. I have this budget for emergencies. I have this budget for medical bills. Then I have this budget to support you. This is what I can give you. So that when you get to those ages of retirement, your children don't have to do for you. They don't have to. Now everybody is financially secure. It has to start somewhere, and it has to start with our generation. Because now we can't stop helping our parents. They didn't know better. They didn't know. We can't fault them for it. But now our generation, we know better. So let's do better and not pass those problems down to our children. The other problem that I have seen is borrowing for consumption. That's one that I have seen. The failure to understand that we are limited and that we should be able to not just to live within our means, but keep growing our means. That borrowing for consumption because we want to fit in, again, money mindset, is another thing I find that has landed us in problems in showbiz. Even people borrowing for things like a baby shower. This is another education. You know me, you can tell me briefly, but I don't know what briefly means. Let me see, what gender reveal. Have you heard of gender reveal?
Yes.
Okay. You know, what do men do? You know, I like to give examples of women because those are my experiences. What do men contribute for? A lot. Weddings. Another thing that I found is problematic, especially in Africa, is our contributions to events. And these are great events, no problem about it. But you must be able to contribute what you can afford. The problem is that they send in the WhatsApp group the names and the amounts.
Yes.
That's the problem. So people feel compelled.
Embarrass you into action.
They embarrass you into action. That is it. But you must be able to be, as an individual, learn mental independence, where you know that, me, this is what I have. If I make a decision that is misaligned with what I can afford, I'm the one going to suffer.
True.
Those people laughing at you are not going to suffer. It is you going to suffer. So decide to put only what you can afford. And I swear to you, there are people who can't afford. And this is the tip I give people who actually cannot afford to contribute. Contributions don't have to be financial. We have a saying in my language in Uganda, which says, "Obwongo bunafu bikoya bigere." That means that somebody, obwongo is the brain. If you don't use your brain properly, your legs will get tired. You'll find that there are two kinds of people. There are people who do manual labor and get tired and sweat. There are people who do intellectual work, and in 2 seconds, they have monies in their accounts. If you're not able to think intellectually, you're going to make your body tired. Because what's going to happen? You want to contribute to your friend's wedding, you get out 300,000, which you can't afford. 300,000, which was supposed to be paying maybe a shuttle for your children. But because you fear embarrassment, you say you have this money. Then you go and look for Herbert and say, Herbert, 300,000. Herbert says, I only have 150,000. He gives you your 150K. 150K, then you decide, I'm so desperate, my child has to go to school. You go to a loan shark whose interest rate is at 30% per month. You get another 150,000. Now, you have to pay back this 150,000 at 30% interest. You have to pay Herbert back. You've given money away. And in all of this, there's nothing generating income. Nothing. You're spending. Where are you getting that money?
And in fact, the 30% is taking your future income.
It's taking the future income because now you have no income because the 30% is encroaching on your actual future income. Now you have no income. So I tell people, find ways to support your friends in non-monetary terms. You can go, as now on the side of women, I'm not sure how a man would do it, but as on the side of women like to go and shop, look for their gowns, look for their jewelry, look for shoes. Call her and escort her. Call her and escort her. Go and see the photographer. Go and see the person doing the video. Find the person doing the cake. Do research and find out for her. Which cakes are best? And then even go extra miles. And let me tell you, that person is the one they'll thank in the speech on the wedding. Of course. Not you who gave 2 million shillings, which you did not have. So those are the ones I have seen a lot. Expenses that we don't track, mostly because of the two cultural issues we have, which are contributing to expensively to social events, and black tax, which is supporting extended family, and also borrowing for consumption as opposed to for productive purposes.
I have a question for you. If I have a budget,
yes,
and I have to admit, for me, in my budget, I don't have black tax.
No one has it.
If I've now seen that I need to add it, because this is my learning right now, and maybe I've put, I'll use your example, 300K for black tax for this month or for this quarter, whatever, for this month.
Yes.
If someone has called me, I've already exhausted the 300 because maybe they don't know which other family I gave.
Yes.
If someone has called me and this 300 is finished, what do I actually tell them that is not going to make me look fake? To be honest, that's number one. And two, because they already know that he definitely has this 300K.
Okay. Yes.
He just doesn't want to give it to me. But what am I going to tell them, or what would you recommend? How do I approach that?
I remember when I said mental independence.
Yes.
People treat you the way you allow them to. I ask my friends all the time, why is it that they don't come to me for that 300K all the time? Why is it you always that they are coming to? Because you fear embarrassment. You fear. Before you decide whether to say yes or no, your mind first goes to, what will they say? What will they say? Yes. For as long as your mind keeps going to what will they say, I swear you will be broke. You will be poor. Sometimes you just have to stand firm in your decisions and be honest with yourself. My budget line for supporting friends and family, mine is the same. Supporting friends and family is 600,000 Uganda shillings a month. That 600,000, if nobody comes for it, I put it in savings.
You don't carry over?
No, I don't carry over. No. I don't carry over. That's my budget. for the month. Because it's supposed to be miscellaneous. If it survives, I put it in savings for emergency.
And it is not to say that if someone comes early in the month on the 2nd and says, oh, by the way, I need 300K, it is not a guarantee they're going to get it.
No, it's not
you
a
verify.
guarantee.
You vet the request.
I vet the request. But vetting the request also, but coming early gives you a higher advantage.
Yes.
Gives you a higher advantage. If you come early and you say, I have this issue, I have this struggle, I'll give you. And for me, by the way, that money is in my black tax. I'll give it to you. You'll ask me for a loan. I will give it. I'll give you what I can afford to lose. Because I have budgeted for 600K. If you come insisting I'll pay you back, I'll take back your money. It's actually my money. I'll take it back. But if you don't pay me, I'll never look for you. I'll never say anything. If you're my friend, I don't really lend to my close friends. I give them the money.
Why?
Because money is the number one leading breaker of any kind of relationship. For as long as money changes power dynamics instantly, subconsciously, even if you don't know it. How about if you came today and asked me for 200,000 shillings, it will change the power dynamic between us. It makes you vulnerable, and you will feel vulnerable, even when I'm not saying or doing anything about it. It's on you. If something changes. So if I pick up the phone and say, Banange, I have somebody outside who needs some help or guidance. How about even if you're not in a place to, you will do for me because I give you money. You don't. It releases the freedom that friendship should have. It does, just automatically.
And also, if someone if I've come to you in this case and asked you for the 200K, whether you have it or not, that change still occurs.
Whether you have it or not, that change occurs. It just happens, honestly. It just takes a sense of time. It's only time, by the way, that allows that to pass, that puts that dynamic back to equilibrium. It's only time. So the higher the amounts and the lack of payment keeps that dynamic in play. You can borrow even 10 million, by the way, from your friend. You can borrow that money. And that's fine. It shifts the power dynamic, but once the 10 million is paid back, equilibrium starts to be restored. It starts. But for as long as that money is in play, there's a power dynamic. And for me, I don't want to have power over my relationships. Human beings were designed for connection. So we must maintain. And because if you know that you're the one in the group, in all the group, there are rich people and there are good people who are good with money, who always have money, and there are always friends who don't have at all. So you have to have a workaround of that dynamic.
When your 600K is done and someone comes, you tell them outright?
I tell them outright, I'm sorry, I don't have money, but maybe check with me in 2 weeks' time.
That's when you're calculating the next cycle.
That's when I'm calculating the next cycle.
And
I push you forward.
Yeah,
and this is genuine. I push you forward. Again, Herbert, let me tell you, I no longer have to vet because the people who can come to me for money know who I am. They know what to tell me. They know what I can give them for. There's no one I think I even vet anymore. I don't think so. The people who come to me are people who genuinely need money. They know me. I'm on TV. I'm talking about financial literacy. I'm not just going to give you money just for that. Because now when you come, I ask you, so what is your plan? You come to me and give me, what is the plan to get you out of this cycle? Are you happy here? Do you like this life? So what can we do? Do you need support? Let's see what we can do. People don't like those conversations.
Of course.
So they don't come.
Of course.
People will treat you how you allow them to. I just say, the money for my quota has ended. Let's see in 2 weeks what we can do. And that's it.
What's the reaction you get when you say this?
Of
to
course,
the people who don't know you?
No,
in the beginning.
People who don't know me, and have asked, I just say, no, I can't give you money. But let me tell you also something. The amounts which somebody you can really see has a struggle. So much as I have that 600,000, I have some miscellaneous for someone who literally tells you, Nabachwa, I need 20K. And you see someone is in struggle, and it won't take away from you. I can give that person 50,000. Who came asking me for 100K, yet I had that. You just have to decide and just be principled and say, this is what I'm going to do. End of discussion, end of story. It's going to affect me more than it affects you. Why is it me that the more you say yes, the more they come to you? And why is it me that they're depending on? Let me tell you, Herbert. When you stop giving that person, they find an alternative route. They're like water. Water takes the path of easiest resistance. When you start to resist, it looks for somewhere else to pass, and it will always find somewhere to pass. Why does it have to be you? Are you Jesus? No, Jesus died for all of us. Why do you want to be him? Only one person saved us, and the Prophet Muhammad. Why do you want to be those people? Who gave you that responsibility? Nobody. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. And everybody will find their path as they should, as it is intended. That's just life. And be confident in the decision you've made. You've just got to be confident in it and stick to it. There are no regrets. Don't feel guilty. That's mental independence. Now you have to train another muscle of your brain called mental independence. Yeah. So
and you have to know you will lose some friends in the process.
Yeah, of course.
But you will have your better mental state.
That's true.
And you will be a better person.
Yeah, and those are not your friends also. Actually, you'll be losing people that you are meant to lose. That is it. That helps life weed out people who are not meant to be around you. Yeah.
There is this issue of a common money problem also of living paycheck to paycheck. You touched on it briefly, having a lot of months at the end of the money. But what do you have to say about paycheck to paycheck?
Actually, that is statistically true. I think we saw that in COVID, where it was only 15% of Ugandans. They did surveys in all the country. And Uganda, it came to 15% do not live paycheck to paycheck. Could sustain 15 days. 15 days without a paycheck.
Wow.
That's it. It showed me the fabric of how we are all one emergency away from poverty. Paycheck to paycheck. If I was to tell people, mine is to start saving. My first one is to tell people who are earning an income today, start with what you have. If you don't have 10,000 shillings, then, all of us, every educator or coach or speaker speaks to a certain category of people. I can't pretend and lie to people that I have the capacity to talk to every single income bracket. I don't have the capacity. There are people who extreme wealth who I can't speak to. And there are people of extreme poverty who I'm not equipped to speak to. That's why I tell you, I can only speak to you if you have 10,000 and above. I'm not able to speak to anyone below that because I'm not equipped. Anyone earning 10,000 and above has the ability to save. Start small. And the biggest trick with saving is save as soon as you earn. Not after you have spent. You first save and then you spend. Save, put that money aside and then you spend. This is a trick I teach people. I teach corporates mostly who are given an advance. For as long as you're employed by anybody and they allow you to they allow you to take advance at little to no interest, always take your advance. That advance helps you save. We have a rule of budgeting, which is 50, 30, 20 rule. 50% goes to your expenses, 30% goes to your luxuries or your wants, 20% goes to savings and investment. That's the starting rule when you just started working. Once you move, then the luxury and the savings and investment switches. Now you have 30% of savings and investment. So that salary advance, you always go and get at least 30% of it and have it saved so that your employer takes that money off you automatically and put it in a safe place. Safe place meaning maybe a treasury bonds or bills or unit trusts or anything. So that, me personally, that's what I do. I get my money for the year. I get 30% of my annual income and put it aside. And someone could say that they can do that every month. But you see, there's power in compound interest.
Yes.
So if I have my 1 million and I decide to take off 30%, it will be 300,000, making money for 12 months. For you, who decides to pick off 90,000 a month, you won't, by the time the year has ended, it won't be the same money.
True.
That money looks different.
True.
So if you have access to advance, you can get that money. Paycheck to paycheck is a consequence of not saving. And saving of two things, not saving and not being able to plan properly, to budget. Budgets are made of wants and needs. People don't understand wants and our needs have evolved. There was a time when we were in school and people would say, what are your needs? Shelter,
Yes,
clothes,
health, education,
health, food.
yes.
Now, data is a need.
Yes,
Communication is a need. Security is a need. There are needs now that are different. Hair is a need. Doing my hair is now a need. There are things that you have to understand have evolved. But in those needs, there are brackets. Food is a need, but what food are you eating? People say they are broke because, actually, Herbert, I want to ask you one question. These discussions I have with men. I want to ask, one of the bigger things that keep people on paycheck to paycheck and broke, especially in the African culture, is that whenever we get extra money, we have extra expenses. For men, I have seen that whenever they get extra money, they get extra women. And whenever they get extra women get extra children. Now they are perpetually broke again. I have these conversations with men, but it becomes mbozi za malua. We always have it in the bar. So you never reach the end of the conversation. I know you're the host, but I need to ask you, how can a man say that I'm always broke? Yet, whenever he gets extra money, he adds an extra woman, he adds extra children, and then he says, banally, being a man is difficult. Explain that to me. It makes no sense to me.
I agree. And you're right, it is a common discussion topic and never gets to the end.
Why is there no end?
Because I think as the discussion continues, there are different angles that people will bring in to justify the trend that you're talking about.
And that's what happens.
And I have seen people who, there is a common saying in financial literacy, I think, something along the lines of, as your money increases, your wants also increase. And yet, as your money increases, there should be no change here at all. You should be at a level where you're comfortable or you've capped it, I had a guest here and she was talking about something along the lines of financial literacy, this point exactly. She said, the food that you eat today of 20K should not change to 100K just because you have 1 million shillings in your pocket. True. No, it is still the same thing, right? That's true. But unfortunately, what you're asking does happen indeed. And I don't know. I can't place a finger on this thing. But it is a phenomenon for sure.
It is such a phenomenon. In that same breath, for both men and women alike, when you earn 30% increase in your income, 20%, 10%, we always feel the need to increase our wants and needs. And then we say we are broke. But when your income increases, your savings and investments should increase fast. These other things come after you've taken care of savings and investment. And if you find that your income is increasing even more, then you must be saving more. You have a responsibility to save even more. Because I tell you, with more money comes more problems. Do you hear poor people complaining the same way we complain about, about life? I drove my son through a slum one time. They were going to my parents' home in Bulova. And there was their road had really bad traffic. But there is a feeder road that moves. And you know how we are unequal in these countries. Yeah, you have development, you have urban and rural living together across the fence. Yes. So now we took a road of rural. And there were these children, they were dirty, they had no shorts, they had no shoes. There were 4 of them on a bicycle, on the big roadmaster bicycle. Those children were under the age of 10. They were moving down and they were so excited. I had been giving my son a lecture about appreciating what he has. My son had been asking me for PlayStation games. PS5. He has PS4. Yes. He was asking me for PS5. So I was trying to explain to him, appreciate what you have. How can you start asking, what do you think? I'm a money-making machine? And even that PS4, we saved for it together. Right. For 2 years. Right. Both me and him. He gave me what he had. I gave him what, we put our money together, and he was 12 years old at the time. Wow. So now we pass and I said, can't you see that these people who are even here, don't you feel like you're privileged? You're passing them in a car. He looked at me and said, Mom, those are the happiest people I've seen in a very long time.
Wow.
And that to me was clarity. Poor people don't have the same problems that we have. Middle income have the biggest problems, because we are trying to reach into a category that is up there.
You're not yet
able to cross.
Yes, and you're tired of this
and you're
one.
tired of here. But all the mistakes, all the decisions you're making are keeping you down here, and yet you're also trying to overtake. That's where that paycheck to paycheck comes from. We should master discipline. Financial literacy, the biggest part of financial literacy is discipline. You must master the art of discipline. I'm going to share with your people today. You told me, I'm renovating my house. I talked to you earlier. I'm renovating my house. And every time I look around at things, I want, but I already made my plan and I finished it. And accounted for it and budgeted for it and put it aside. And I have a team that has started work. But every time I enter a very nice place, like this very nice place that you have here, I see something better. I see something nicer that I want to implement. But I must be disciplined to understand that I set a budget and I must stick to that budget. That other money is there because I have savings for other things. If I really, really, really want it, I would go and take some money and convince myself that I would find a way to pay back. If I don't have money, I don't have money. I can have 100 million. I can go on a cruise tomorrow and toina chonganga because I planned for that cruise. I've planned for it, but I don't have money to give you now. There's a difference. So that paycheck, I understand it. I think we need to understand what savings can do for you. Savings is, for me, I will tell you, it's been the biggest weapon in my artillery case.
Both savings, defense and offense and everything protects. Everything
it protects. And when it comes to emergency, by the way, this is the rule of thumb. For people who are starting out, you must always have a minimum of 6 months of your expenses. Expenses meaning mostly your needs. So that if your income is cut off today, you can survive for at least 6 months. You and your dependents. When I talk about you, I don't talk about you. You and everybody.
Maintaining the lifestyle.
Maintaining the lifestyle. Your lifestyle must reduce a bit because that's another problem we have as Africans. When we think that our spending patterns must remain the same. The time for spending more has a different time for saving more, has a different time for investing more, has a different time for borrowing more. There are different cycles. So we always want to be able to spend the same through every cycle. That's not through every season. That's not how it goes. You must understand that there are cycles when I must save more, and there are cycles when I can spend more. But as we want to live at the exact same level of earnings and of spending as we did at all seasons, it's not possible. Christmas is coming. Why do you think people are broke in January?
True.
Because they haven't planned for January.
True. They say January.
I literally start saving for Christmas in January. It takes me 12 months to save for Christmas. So that whatever plan anybody gives me, I can afford it.
There are those who say, let me enjoy my money. Let me eat my money. Why am I doing this? I'm going to die tomorrow. Let me enjoy my money.
That is a principle. There is a song. What was it called? If the money you have can't do the things that you want. There used to be a song.
Okay, yes, I know what you're saying.
I don't remember who said they eat your money. That is the worst advice you can give any person who is trying to be financially secure. This is where savings comes in. You can save small amounts. You don't have to achieve your goals today. There's a younger generation that wants to do things right now. They want to have things right now. You don't have to have what you want in the exact shape, size, and form today. And because you can't get it now, you eat your money. No. You have to understand that for every financial decision you make, there is a consequence. I tell people, there are no wrong financial decisions. That person who has said, I want to eat my money and enjoy my money, I can't come and tell you that's a wrong decision. Do it, but you know that there's a consequence later. Are you willing to take care of that consequence? Or are you going to now look for somebody to support you in a time when you actually need help? There are consequences. I can never stop people from enjoying their lives. Enjoy your life, but go through and learn and wonder why there are people who things happen to them, they get bumps in the road, but they come back up very quickly. And when there are others, when things start going south, they die. That's it. Which of those two do you want to be? You are the one who has to make the decision. Again, it's personal financial management. I can't come and force you to do what is working for me. I can't. Because for me, it's working for me. Now for you, figure out what is working for you, so that we can decide together when things are poor at the end of the road. You don't come and then you say, please give me 300,000. I need this for this and the other. And then I say no. Then now our friendship breaks. And then you don't understand that that friendship breakup is a consequence of a decision you made to eat your money.
Before you even came to me.
Before you came to me. And then now you say, Pumla, you're the bad one. We have to learn to take
You changed
accountability.
when you got
Pumla
married.
changed when she got money. Yeah, that's a woman. She changed when she got money. Yet no, I've been like this. It's you who had expectations of me when you did not have money. That's just it. But mine, I would say really savings and being able to cut unnecessary expenditure. Understand that if you want your children to go to these nice international schools, they are more expensive. If you want them to go to a good traditional school, they are more expensive. Can you afford it? Or you just want people to see that your children go to those schools? And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with taking people, as long as you have a plan to expand your means. Those two have to go hand in hand. You must have a plan to grow your means while you're living within your means. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. There's nothing wrong with saying, this is what I want for my life. This is what I want to do. Do what you need to do, but you must plan and follow that plan through. And I'll say this all the time, just have the number of children you can afford. There's a brokenness when I look at the number of your children, and then then you tell me you're broke. I'm always like, now you made a decision, you enjoyed. Now you're coming to me with your problems. So let's educate our children better. Have the number of children you can afford.
There is, I'll say this is my last question on these common struggles people have. You've talked about personal financial literacy, right?
Yeah.
And you do coach, talk to corporates and all this.
Yes.
There's two parts. Do you also talk to business owners, part A? If you do talk to business owners, there is a tendency whereby businesses usually fail within the first 3 years.
I do talk to business owners, but only to the capacity that I am limited. I'm always open and forthcoming about where my capacity stops. I'm not going to help you grow your business, but I can help you sustain it. So mine is sustainability. And one of the things I have realized about businesses that fail is record keeping, poor record keeping. That's one of the things I've learned that we don't, again, and that comes down to budgeting. When you have a budget and you have a plan, you can't track your profits or your losses if you don't keep records. And I've seen so many opportunities. I see people advertising record, even digital apps these days on how to keep records, faster ways of record keeping. But I find that people don't usually keep records. And I think I found the reason why. Because people are ashamed. People mix their business money with their personal money.
True.
They don't divide it. There's business money, there's expenses which need to go back into the business. For whatever reason, it has to go back. But whenever this is a phone, it's 1 million shillings, the profit is 200,000. They put it there in a bank account somewhere. All the money is jangled up. So now they're not able to track whether they did make profits or they did not. And that's detrimental. The second one that I have found is people failing to budget properly for their costs. We tend to undercut our prices so that we can get consumers, we can get clients.
Oh.
But we don't, and then we fail to actually meet our operating costs under that.
Poor pricing strategy.
Poor pricing strategies.
Okay.
And when you're breaking into, and this is why they say it happens in the first 1 to 3 years, because when you're trying to break into a market, you think that if I price cheap, customers will come. And it does happen, but then that takes a toll on your costing. So I would rather that you priced what you should price, as you should price, and have slow growth. People just want growth now. They don't realize that it's not real growth. It isn't. If you want growth and sustainable growth, you must start in a certain. People will look at you and say, that's too priced. I can even get it from somewhere else. You stick to your pricing. Stick to your pricing. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But undercutting your prices is not going to work. That's for sure. Those are the two that I feel I have seen have happened a lot. And also maybe borrowing a lot. Interest rates in Uganda are unfortunately quite high. I say this as a regulator of financial institutions who are doing their best to bring these rates lower. But these banks have high operating costs as being number one. And number two, there's a lack of creditworthiness. People don't pay back their loans. We've had even stories of people who we know are big people in society and are rich and are looking for loopholes to not pay big sums of money. So because of that, Bank of Uganda puts in place what we call provision for bad debt. Every bank, every institution has to set aside a chunk of money to provide for if people fail to pay. So who do you think they put that burden on? They put that burden on the borrower. So whenever you come for your loan of 100 million, there's a 30% extra that they charge you so that they can keep aside provision for bad debt. That's what happens. So when you come and get your money, but it's not really worth the value of the money you need. But because you need that money, you take it anyway. You have no repayment plan. In every question you ask me, I'll go back to savings. If you had saved, all you need from the bank is top up. For us, we go to the bank for full capital.
Yes.
We don't have any backing. Yes. So we find ourselves paying expensively back to these banks. It's expensive. It erodes everything. And then you feel discouraged also, and you just pour the thing. So those are the three I think I have found.
Many people have loans, number one. Many people are in a borrowing cycle. You already touched briefly about the interest rates. From the banks, they are high. From the money lenders, even higher, right? What do you have to say, either as advice or how people get into this borrowing cycle that, our viewers can really understand?
Okay. So there's good borrowing and there's bad borrowing. There's good debt and there's bad debt. It's very difficult unless you have generational wealth to break into the rich bracket without borrowing money. Very difficult, very difficult. But it's possible, but very difficult. So we can't say that borrowing is bad. There's borrowing, good borrowing and bad borrowing. Let's start with the bad borrowing. Bad borrowing is borrowing for consumption. Bad borrowing is borrowing when you don't really have a plan, a repayment plan to pay back. Bad borrowing, this is one reason why we end up in bad borrowing cycles, because we borrow from places of desperation as opposed to clarity. When you borrow from a place of desperation, you don't think about the risks, you don't think about the consequences, you don't think about anything except that I need this money.
When you're desperate.
When you're desperate. People need to learn that when they feel that the need to borrow, they shouldn't borrow. They should wait. Wait it out, sit it out. Let clarity come to them. Think through what they need, think through their plans, and then decide. Do I still want to take this decision? Number one. Is this where I still want to take this decision from? Do I still need to borrow from who I want to borrow from? Number two. Do I still need that amount that I thought I needed? Number three. And can I really afford to pay it back? if you have answers to all that, in a place when you're thinking, in a place of clarity, you can go ahead and borrow. Let's go to good debt. Good debt should be money that changes. You borrow money for a change in financial position or for money that's going to bring you income. You can't borrow money for anything else. You can't. When you borrow, that money that you're borrowing should be giving you, should be productive. That's what it should be. But now let us say that. Now for you, you're hearing this for the first time. Now we can't go back. We're now in the debt cycle. There are ways to alleviate that pressure. Number one, there are different strategies for paying back loans. The bigger one, there are three main ones. I'll touch on each of them. The bigger one, which the one I find that I like the most, is what we call the snowball method. Snowball method means you list all your debts from highest to smallest, regardless of the interest rate. List them and look at them and face them. One thing that I have realized why people are not able to pay back their loans is because even that step is difficult. They are also ashamed to admit to themselves how much they really owe. It's like a budget. Some people fail to budget because it gets overwhelming. So you need to pass that stage. It's like when you go to a therapist or a counselor, some people fear because they are not ready to declare what their true feelings are, the truth. But you must. If you want to get out of a debt cycle, you must. List everything and be honest with yourself. It must be everything, including your brother and sister who you know will forgive you. You list their debts. Some people don't want to pay back people closest to them. List those ones as well. Then this is how you start. You pay what you need to pay minimally. You pay in every other loan. And then the smallest loans, you try to pay completely, or you try to pay bigger amounts. That one usually helps with motivation. Once you clear one and you can tick, you're like, okay, even if it's very small, but you've ticked it. That's why it's important to list all the debts, even the smallest, even if it's 3,000 shillings, list it. Then try to keep paying. And because you want relationships, even if you've borrowed 10 million shillings, even if you give them back some 200,000, give something. So keep paying back. Don't decide that one looks like they are comfortable. They're okay. I won't give them. That one, I'll see how to dodge them. That one, list and pay what you can on all. The smallest ones, try to pay more aggressively. Bigger amounts of loans. So that when you come back to your list, you have ticked. You start ticking from down. That serves as motivation. Once you've cleared this, you keep going. That's the one. The other one, which I have found that people have used and seems discouraging, is what they call the avalanche method. Avalanche means that you list all your debts from highest interest. You list from highest interest. And then you start to pay. The problem with that is that it takes a longer time and you don't see any change. It takes a long time to see any change because you're paying off these big amounts which have high interest and you're not seeing any difference. You're not ticking off anything. But the advantage with that one is that because interest is compounding, you pay on the balance. Your loan now reduces. The interest you have to pay reduces a bit, but sometimes it can be discouraging. So usually for me, I go for the snowball method. But again, personal financial management, it's you who decides. One which I found useful in Uganda in our setting is the third one, where you consolidate your debts. Consolidate meaning we now have access to circles. Join a circle or a collective investment, a group that gives loans at much cheaper rates. Most people struggling with debt problems are usually using high interest rate providers. What you can do is join a circle or an income investment, a group. And you know, when you're in those groups, you have to save.
Yes, yes.
So now that's already financial accountability and responsibility. You're not going to climb mountains when you're not giving a part of yourself.
True.
So now you have to start saving with these people. When you start saving with them, then you can go and ask for a loan, consolidate these debts and say, okay, I need so much. Use that low interest loan to pay back the high one. Once you weed that off, now you have a chunk that you can pay back this loan, because either way you had to pay back that loan. The question is, at what interest rate?
Hold on, let me make sure I understand this. So you have 5 different loans.
Yes.
One loan is from a loan shark, 30%, another one 27%, whatever. The last one is here, 2%, 5 of them, right?
Yes.
So you put them all together and say the total interest is this, or the total monthly that I have to pay is this. Let's say the total percentage average weighted is around 25.
Yes.
Now you go to the circle.
Yes.
Tell them I want to borrow this amount, but their interest is maybe like 5%.
Yes.
Then you get this money, come and pay off this one.
Pay it off, and then come back here. The problem with that, I have found, again, this takes financial discipline. The trouble we have found with that method is that people have now problems paying back circle money. They feel, they get a feeling that they've been relieved. You know, when you get that feeling of relief, now you think you have space. Remember, your consolidated was 25%. Now you have these loans at 5 to 10%. So you feel that gap, you've survived. And you know what those people do again? They go back to borrow in that percentage and fall back in another cycle. That's why that one is deadly. But if you've mastered discipline and you're honest with yourself and now you really want to get out of this trap, that's the one that works. And while you're doing that, you must also now be sacrificing your expenses. You must be cutting down on your expenses heavily. There's no reason why you need to live in a house, a condominium that you can't afford. There's no reason. You're just embarrassed. You're just on Bananda Babatia. But now you must start cutting. You can move for a while and then get your finances back on track and move. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump, his whole empire was taken away. But look at him now. It happens. And many times you're in those places maybe because maybe you tried to take a risk and maybe it didn't pan out. Maybe. And now you're in this date. Now what can we do? Now you have to go back, sit with yourself alone and say, you know what? This is what it is. I can't afford this lifestyle anymore. Let me cut back on my expenses. Remove those children from those expensive schools if you have to. Remove them. They will study.
Do you find that people want to hear this?
They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. But I swear to you, in every 100, there's always 3 people who choose that path. And
that is the motivation for you.
That's my motivation. If I can help just 2 people, even 1, I'm okay. The larger percentage doesn't want to hear it, and they're not going to practice it. But that's fine. What I like though, is that in the 100 people who are listening, if 100 have made the mistake, there is going to be a group that has not yet made that mistake. And now they know that this can go worse. This can go terribly wrong. So let's not get there. And if they get there, the fact that you had it before you got there allows you to align yourself to implement. The people who have problems are the ones who are reading that thing and are hearing it for the first time. Those are people I've seen struggle to make a change. So I usually speak to everybody, and I know that there are groups of people that are picking and that will implement because it comes easier to them. You've had it before you've entered the trap. So when you enter that trap, you've had that information before. Then you start to make adjustments. They do it.
But like they say, if you're going to make an omelette, you have to be ready to break the eggs.
This is it.
If you want to change if you're not happy with where you are,
this is it.
There has to be a drastic change.
There has to be. You can't have your egg and eat it too.
At the same time.
No,
True.
You can't.
I love this. There is, I love this a lot. There is these apps that are like borrowing or lending apps, right? And also people borrow from these phone, like MTN, Airtel, whatever.
Yes.
There are cases where you try to send money to people, mobile money,
and they say, "Don't send on this one."
Yes.
Oh my God.
Huh?
Loan apps, by the way, loan apps can be useful. They are dangerous.
And these are regulated, by the way, officially regulated.
This is where I'm going.
Okay.
There are apps which are not regulated. So I want to educate that there are apps, that there is a regulator for digital lenders.
Yes.
They exist. The same way Bank of Uganda regulates financial institutions. But there are financial institutions which are not regulated. They exist.
Okay.
Those loan apps, there are loan apps which are regulated. Like these ones on our phones. Those ones we know for sure are regulated because there is a regulator for them. The regulator, by the way, is UMRA, Uganda Micro Regulatory Authority.
Not BOU.
Not Bank of Uganda.
Okay.
Those loan apps are regulated by UMRA, not Bank of Uganda. So it's just like how you have UCC. It's still MTN, but MTN is MTN or Airtel they are regulating their talk time. Then BOU comes and regulates their money process, the money bit of it. So for these ones which are regulated by Bank of Uganda, the ones on your phone, that's different. But there are these other cash apps which are regulated by UMRA, the smaller ones, which are regulated by UMRA. So my first thing with loan apps, I know they can be useful, but I know that they can be twice dangerous if used irresponsibly, because nobody has taught us how to use this money that comes to us directly. This is the problem. Business people, this is something I need you to understand as a human being. Business people don't care about you. They care about the profit that they get. They don't care about you. So business people will look for demand and supply where there's demand to fill that gap. Now, for you who is on the demand end, you think that it's a gift to you and you utilize it as such. It's not a gift. If you can use it responsibly, loan apps, my advice for loan apps is to use in case of emergency. Do you know why? Those loan apps have 1% interest per day. 1% interest per day.
Wow.
That is 30% interest in a month. 30%.
And it's compounded.
It's compounded. And it's not like these other institutions where it's annualized, where they split that interest into 12 months. There are two main problems. They have high interest rate. Their second bigger problem is that they have short repayment periods. So while you might think that this looks like a gift, it's really not a gift. It can be a curse. It is only a gift if you're using it for emergencies. And when I say emergency, you must have the discipline to know what an emergency is.
That was my question, the definition of emergency.
It's a personal issue. It's personal. If your child is not breathing and you can't do anything and you have to take them to the hospital and you need money, you'll get it. You will get it. But if your friend has called you and said, Banange, I'm here, I'm in town, that's not an emergency because you're at home bored doing nothing. No, it's not an emergency. People who have I have a loan limit. They keep telling me mine is 600,000. I don't know what yours is now, but mine is 600,000.
I'm going to have to come up with it because
no, not a limit. The one that my Airtel Money, I'm on Airtel Money. Airtel Money loans sends messages to me trying to get me to borrow money, and they say congratulations,
we have
increased your loan limit. Me, I know that's not a gift. Increasing my loan limit is not a gift because my emergencies have not changed. My emergencies are still the most amount of money I think I've borrowed from the apps, maybe is 100,000, because I was in a fix at a point where I didn't have money on my phone. I've tried to get into my bank account to put money on my phone and I have failed. And so I feel I have to. And I pay back immediately because I can't afford 1% interest. It's too high. Why would you pay 1%? It's too high. They are taking advantage of people, but they have a space. They can be useful if you can regulate how you use them, number one, and make sure that those apps that you're using are regulated. Do your due diligence and make sure they are regulated. Do you know this? There are guidelines to digital lending. Do you know these apps, when you fail to pay back, there are people who can call your entire contact book?
Yes.
It's not allowed.
Yes.
It's not accepted. But they are doing it because they are not regulated. So you have nobody to go to for when you're in duress. The financial ecosystem should be fluid in that nobody should feel that they are being strangled for something. They shouldn't. You, when you're borrowing, again, borrow from a place of clarity so that you can also pay back from a place of clarity. If you borrow from a point of desperation, people are going to come and banja you from points of desperation and they're going to cut your hands off. They do it. They're going to take your property. They do it because you borrowed from a point of desperation. And then you come out and cry foul, failing to take accountability and responsibility for the fact that you borrowed money that you had no business borrowing because the money was readily accessible to you. As Bank of Ghana, we are trying to increase financial services, access to financial services. And this is one of the ways, but they need to be regulated. They must be regulated. If you continue borrowing from the unregulated apps, you give them more wings.
Of course.
You allow them to grow. And then you will think that they are a necessity. They are not. They are not a necessity. They don't vet you. People want to go to these places because they are not vetted. The reason why the supervised financial institution denied you a loan, they had a reason. Your business plan was not foolproof. There was a reason they denied you. Your repayment plan looked dodgy, shaky. There's a reason they denied you. So you want to use this app because it doesn't care who you are, what your background, it doesn't care. They don't care what you're going to do with the money.
And they give small amounts.
And they give small amounts just like this.
Easy consumption.
Easy consumption. They fool you. They fool you. Do you know that if they would give you 5 million, you'd be a bit apprehensive.
Yes.
They give you just enough that that makes you think I can pay this back. Before you know it, ring, ring, ring. Banage, can I send you money? I send, then they call me. Banage, Pumla, you sent on the wrong number. I'm like, what do you mean I sent on the wrong number?
Isn't this your number?
This is your number. It was registered to you. Banage, that one, they've eaten all the money. Can you send me again? I tell them, no, actually, I've helped you. That one is even now a gift. I've helped you pay back a loan. Then now you've started repayment. You now start paying back your loan also.
I have seen these people who have taken these loans and they will tell you, please, before you send on this one, etc.
Yeah.
And when you see the person face to face and you ask them, it is like a counseling session. And you ask, the other day you received this money. I know for sure you received this money. And the loan is just a small amount here. Why did you not pay this off? Oh, and then it is a whole circus at that point. But these amounts, they are actually quite small. They are small package, but they keep someone in a deadlock of some sort.
They keep you on stronghold, and you don't realize at the onset until you see that 30%. That's when you start to realize, oh my God, this is a lot of money. It's
I don't know if you have an answer to this follow-up, but would you know how they are performing those? Because I think the repayment, should be very low based on the operation style. I think the repayment should be low, but they are still in business, so they are making something. Maybe the 30% is big enough. Would you know how their performance is?
I don't know. I'd have to. That is information you can get from UMRA. I don't know that. I don't know the details, but that's information you can get from UMRA. But I know for a fact that while there's a big percentage that's not paying back, there's a big percentage that does pay back.
Right.
The 30% provides for the bad debt.
True.
It covers it. So when they do their calculations, they cater for the people who will never pay back. And the person who pays for them is the one who always pays back. There are people who always pay back those loans. And the 30% is enough to pay back for it. But I would have to find out the actual statistics. UMRA definitely has the numbers.
What should a person know when they are walking into a bank if they need to take a loan? I know loans are necessary, different circumstances, whatever.
Yes.
But if a person is walking into a bank, what should they have at the back of their mind when they're going to take this loan? Or what is behind the curtain that the bank is not telling this customer who is coming in? I know. Yeah, I know.
No, it's
I have to
alright.
ask the question.
It's all right.
What should the person know going into the bank for a loan?
Number one, we spoke about your mental state at the time you're going for a loan. That's one of the most important things. Don't enter a bank when you're desperate. Enter a bank when there's some clarity. That's one. Because everything I tell you, you won't listen to. If you're entering from a place of desperation, you're not going to listen to me. So my first one is make sure you're at peace with yourself and you're sure that you need this loan or information on this loan, because you may just be entering for information and then they hoodwink you and you find yourself getting money that you didn't need. When you know that now this is a point of clarity, don't be afraid to explore, compare interest rates. On the Bank of Uganda website, every 6 months, we publish interest rates, charges for every commercial bank in the country. And we update every 6 months. So start there. But that's just a guide. That's just a guide because what the banks quote for us are rates like prime lending rate. Mm-hmm. Prime lending rate being the rate that they give their best customer, who will most likely not be you.
True.
So that rate looks low, but it gives you an idea of how they're pricing. Because you'll find that Bank A can give their best customer at 12%. That means their next customers get above 12%. And then you go to Bank B and you find that this one gives 15%. That means that most likely their categories are even higher. That means you're going to be paying even more. So compare interest rates and go to these banks, have conversations with them. Go to the website, find out that there's a line there that has prime lending rate. Look at that prime lending rate and then pick out like 5 banks. Visit them one by one to find out, because sometimes some may say 15%, possibly because of the repayment terms are different. You might find one has lower interest rates, but has more stringent repayment terms. You don't know. There are hidden fees also inside there. Ask for what the fees are. When you go to a bank and ask them for 100 million, they don't give you 100 million. Many banks have loan processing fees. Many banks have due diligence that they put inside there. Insurance. There are many hidden fees. So when you go, you must ask the question. And I'm telling you honestly, not everybody is going to be honest with you.
Of course.
It's after the money has come, it has dropped into your account, and you're seeing 70 million. Then you say,
you signed for 100.
I signed for 100 million. Where is that? Then that's when they start to explain to you that this one went here. This one, we had to check in lands to make sure that your security was there. This one, we had to do processing. This one, we have external staff who we hire to do. Remember when they were advertising, what did they tell you? We will give you an answer in 48 hours. That's why you entered. Forgetting that there is a cost to be paid for that 48 hours response, and that cost will never be on the profit-making institution. True. Never. They will always pass it down to you.
And when, I'm sorry for cutting you short,
no,
just to clarify, and when the time for repayment comes, you're repaying on the total 100.
On the total, exactly.
Not the 70 in your account.
No. You're paying back on
So they have already
full.
taken out 30. If it is 30%, there is another 30 that they're going to take.
Their calculation is based on the total, not on just the money that you're taking in for your business. No. So you have to understand that. So don't enter to get a loan. Enter to get information.
And this is legal.
About the loan. Yes, it's legal. It's legal because we operate in what we call a laissez-faire economy. A laissez-faire economy meaning that the market is driven by forces of supply and demand. You're the one making the banks charge that. No one else is. For as long as you keep demanding for these products, at these rates that you're demanding them at, they'll continue to supply. That is the truth. There's nothing anyone else can do. If you really decided to be mentally disciplined or financially disciplined and said, you know what, that's too high, A, B, C, D, X, Y, John, Peter, Mary, if all of us decided that we can't afford, what do you think the banks would do?
They would
lower. They would lower to meet the demand.
True.
But because there is somebody who can pay. Do you remember when we've been in a fuel crisis? And we've literally had to pay 20,000 Uganda shillings per liter. People parked their cars, but people kept driving. For as long as there is a demand, people will charge what they want because we are in a laissez-faire economy. Laissez-faire means as driven, it's market driven. It's laissez-faire. We don't care. It is you. We are leaving the decision to you to drive prices. They're not the ones setting those prices. You're the ones they set and then they wait and see. Can they pay? And then you come and you pay. So they'll keep them there and then they'll all keep them there. All of them. It becomes now an industry. So you as the individual, you as the borrower, that's why I say, don't borrow when you're desperate. Because when you're desperate, you're going to make poor financial decisions.
A good point. I was going to highlight that one actually. When you walk in, you've asked for 100M.
Yes.
They have shown you 70 on your account. It is ready for you to withdraw right now.
Yes.
The issue that you have is still active. Yes. And the man tells you, we did this, but you can withdraw this right now with the ATM. Because of the desperation, you go ahead and withdraw.
That's
and then the clock starts counting.
Then the clock starts counting. So pay attention to fees. Those loan processing fees, interest rates, repayment terms, and the hidden fees inside there. That, for me, is what, when it comes to loans and a bank, that's where I find there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of information asymmetry. And if you don't know, then they know more than you. They'll always know more than you.
Of course.
Something else that I have discovered that the banks are not telling you is that all these banks, they are partnered institutions with development organizations and government for development programs which are meant to target a percentile of people who cannot afford. The issue is that the banks also have competing products. Most of these funds are around agriculture. We have what we call the Agriculture Credit Facility from government, which offers loans for 10% interest annualized. The banks have competing products of loans of over 18%. Why the government decided to come in to intervene in agriculture is twofold. One, because agriculture is still continues to be the backbone of our economy. It takes up 70% of our value addition in the economy of our production. So, and we were trying to move to a place of commercialized value-adding agriculture, not subsistence farming anymore. We're tired of people eating hand to mouth. You know, you have a cow, a goat, you eat the chicken, you have its eggs, you eat its eggs. We're trying to have people put more value so that they can have money and invest in machinery so that they can get more value for their money, for their harvest. Now, what the banks have realized is that if they sell the government products, their products lose out.
Of course.
So you need to be informed. For you who is listening to me, now you know. When you go to the bank, ask them, are you partnered with any institution or government program that provides any kind of facility for a loan, subsidized? They'll tell you. If you don't ask the question, they don't tell you.
Are they obligated
to tell you? They are obligated to tell you if you ask. Only if you ask. They're not obligated to tell you if you don't. It's not their job to market. That's not their product. They are just partnering with government and these institutions as a corporate social responsibility. It's just a responsibility. But mundamuli, they are praying that maybe people don't find out. It's like that person who tells you, you want me to sell for you your products? You come, we put them on the stand. You can bring them to my supermarket. I'll market for you. But you have also your cornflakes. Let's say you have Procter & Allen here, you have Kellogg's. You're producing Procter & Allen. For them, they bring Kellogg's. And Kellogg's is subsidy is lower than yours. Then you want to help them. And you say, okay, maybe these are the people who are doing for you the road. You know, there are people who you need a relationship with, so you accept to take on their products. Bring in the supermarket, I'll put for you. Then when someone goes and asks, oh, I want cornflakes, instead of showing them Kellogg's is in the store. But if you know that those people sell Kellogg's in the supermarket and you come and say, I want Kellogg's, you have to know what you're asking. Then they'll say, okay, let me go and get it for you. That's exactly how these partnerships are. So that's another thing. These institutions have all partnered with development institutes, with mostly government. But people don't know about them because it's not their responsibility, it's not their job to tell you. So they may market to you more expensive products.
And they are obligated to tell you this?
Only
if you ask.
If you ask. They are not obligated
They cannot lie.
No, they can't lie. They're not obligated to tell you if you don't ask. If you don't ask the right question, they will not.
And okay, agriculture is there. How about for industry development, that kind? Or is it best to ask, do you have facilities generally?
Yeah, you ask, do you have facilities?
And then they can give you like a printout.
Then they'll tell you. They will not give you a printout. They'll just talk to you. They won't. And you can ask them, who do you partner with? They might tell you, and then now you have to go. So what we have found is that some of these people walk to the agencies directly
and bypass the bank.
So you can't bypass the bank. They go to the agencies to go. When they go to the bank and now learn, oh, there is something here, and then maybe they realize they're not giving me full information. Then they go to the agencies. Okay. When they go to the agencies, then the agencies will give them full information.
See how it works.
So this is how it works. This is exactly the process. This is the criteria. This is the requirements. This is a link to our website where we speak about it. Now, when you go with all that information, then the banks have no choice. Because now you're fully informed. Ignorance, my friend, is a thief. When you don't have knowledge, you can't be better.
It's biblical.
It is biblical.
You perish, yes. You perish
for lack of knowledge. It's a terrible position to be in. And I tell you that those institutions always know more than you. Always. And that's the only way that this game can be played.
True.
If they know more than you. So you must arm yourself with information. You can't be crying every day that those people are charging us high interest rates. Yet you've not gone out to seek information, to find out, how can I beat this system? Like how can I mean, you can't beat them per se, but how can I benefit or leverage, opportunities from what they're offering?
I'm sorry, I'm really interested in this.
Yeah, no, let's.
Are we able to, or is there a place where someone can go to see, like how you said Bank of Uganda has the website where you put the interest rates with all the banks, so you can know this is it, and then you know how to attack, right? So is there a forum or a place where someone can see that, the government has partnered with these banks, with these programs, and someone can know that information before actually going?
There's no one-stop shop center, but these things are always announced on TV, on radio. The only issue is that the methods of the platforms where they share, maybe many people are not using them anymore. Of course, like radio, like TV. The highest platform that is used though is radio. So they announced, but people don't listen. They don't listen. They don't really listen. They say, and then they run them quickly in these quick
and
adverts.
Then they tell you,
they are not there. And then you'll also find that they'll find someone to blame.
Yes.
They'll say, for us, we offer that thing, but the money is not there. But maybe check in 2 weeks. But if you want now, as we have this other product. So if you're coming from a place of desperation, you'll buy it quickly. That's why I start with, come to borrow from a place of clarity. Be sure that you can repay that loan. Be sure that you can repay that loan. And most importantly, be sure that that loan is positively changing your financial position or is generating income. It must be for productive purposes and nothing else. You cannot borrow money for a depreciating asset. You cannot borrow to drive a car unless that car is going to do Uber, unless that car is going to transport your merchandise or goods from place A to place B. But anything else, stay in a taxi. If you're looking for a car to transport you from A to B to work, make sure that in the repayment plan, you can afford that car. If it is taking a whole 30%, you shouldn't borrow more than 30% of your income. You shouldn't. There should be part of there that's for saving and investing. So if you're borrowing anything over 10% of your income. And a car is definitely going to chew over 10% of your income.
Sure.
You should not be borrowing that. You shouldn't be borrowing just to take you to and from work. And yet that asset that you're borrowing for is not generating income. So borrowing must be for productive purposes.
That one, I agree 100%.
That one you agree?
I fell in this trap myself.
Oh, really?
Bought a car which is not for goods, not for just to transport me.
That one doesn't work.
I learned my lesson.
That one doesn't work.
Let's move on to the investment part. Okay. I know many people are interested in this. Personally, I'm also interested in this. If a person has 10 million shillings that they want to invest, what would you recommend that they do?
Okay, let me start by this and saying that in my training, we're not allowed to explicitly recommend investment.
Okay.
What's the reason? The reason is that if I say the word, you lock it in your head because you feel like I've spoken from a place of authority. So there are rules of thumb when it comes to investment. There are rules of thumb. When you're trying to invest, for me, again, this is personal financial management. It's personal investment. Personal investment depends on different things. It depends on my risk profile. So when you ask Pumla, if I gave you 10 million shillings today, where would you recommend I invest it? My answer should be different from Herbert's answer. George's answer should be different from Sarah's answer because we have different investment personalities. I may be more risk averse than you are and decide that, all my 10 million, I'm going to put it in treasury bills and treasury bonds. Treasury bills and treasury bonds are government backed. They are safe and your returns will come to you. Government is the only institution, the one that we 100% know has never failed to pay back. They always pay back. Because what ideally, I don't know if people understand what treasury bills and treasury bonds are. Let me explain to you.
Yes.
The government needs money. Every June, we watch a broadcast of the budget reading. That budget reading is saying how much money, what are the projects we want to do in the coming year, how much money do we need for them. Part of that budget is financed by what we call treasury bills and bonds. We call it domestic financing. Domestic financing is simply how much can we collect from Ugandans to finance this budget. It could be about 30% is what they need. So treasury bills and treasury bonds are a corporate harambe, but harambe that pays back interest. The government cannot afford its budget completely. No government in the world can afford their budget completely. So they either have to get from external, they get it from your taxes, that's its number one source. The second source is domestic financing, domestic harambe. The third is external, grants, aid, external borrowing, which we try to avoid because it ties you to people who are lending you that money and they are expensive because you're borrowing foreign currency. So the Ugandan government tries to increase domestic financing because I'm borrowing in my local currency. The people are here. My repayment periods are between 1 year and 20 years. So it's enough money for me, and these are development projects. So as an individual who invests in treasury bills and bonds, they call them treasury bills because those are short term. They are from 3 months to 1 year. And then treasury bonds are longer term. They are from 2 years to 20 years. So you lend government money. You lend government money and then you receive payment at the end of the term. It's you who decides for how long you want to lend the government. So those are the bills and the bonds. So for me as a risk-averse person, I would say that who has not yet decided. So there is different things. As someone who has 10 million shillings and you don't know yet what you want to do, I would recommend that you put it in a safe place that grows income, that grows interest over and above inflation. Anything that is over and above inflation is great, but I would implore you to do due diligence and find out where can I put my money, where I can get good returns. SACCOs are great. Because circles, you can put in your money and borrow. When now you've decided what you want to do, when now you're clear on what you want to do. Treasury bills and bonds are great because they are the safest. And you can put your money as you wait and keep adding as you wait to fight for clarity. The biggest word here I would need you to take away, Herbert, is clarity. Don't just do things because Muntu A opened a poultry farm. I can come here and I tell you, by the way, the places I see poultry, you're going to start the exact same thing as you were mentored to open that poultry farm and yours doesn't work out. So after you've finished investment, if you know what you want to do, and you have 10 million, 60% of that money, at least 60% of that money should go to those safe assets. 40% goes to risky ventures. And when you ask me to recommend for you, I can give you the general ones in Uganda. In Uganda, there's been agriculture, there's real estate, and there's side hustles, business. When you're deciding between these most popular ones right now of agriculture, real estate being land or housing, property, rentals, and etc., and a side business, my recommendation would be to choose one where you have interest, passion, and talent. That would be my recommendation, and that is 40% of any money that you have. But a minimum of 60% must be saved. That cannot be touched in case this 40% goes haywire. Because if you take a whole 10 million and invest it in something risky, it can all pour. And then now you have nothing. You're back to square one. So you must have a figure in your mind that says, how much am I willing to lose if this business doesn't catch? The recommended percentage for that is 30%, but we can leave you room and you say 40%. But recommended is 30%. So that one now is dictated by you, the individual. If I want to do goat farming, where am I going to do goat farming? Is this 4 million shillings enough to start? If it's enough, where is it enough to start? Zero. Can I afford to keep going to land in zero every day? How? Because agriculture needs time. Farming, people like farming. Presence, yes. It needs physical presence. Yes. Even these other businesses, most of these businesses need physical presence. And now we don't realize that there are transportation costs inside all that, which is still in that 10 million of yours. So can I afford? You need to be asking yourself these questions. Do I have the time? Do I have the passion to sustain this? Another reason why many businesses fail, which you asked me much earlier, is because people go for what others are doing, not for what they have passion for. Money can start a business, passion sustains it. When you're passionate about something, and passion comes from interest, we were all born with talents. God gave all of us talents. Each of us that is put on this world has a talent. You need to be able to identify yours. Before you identify yours, keep your money safe until you identify. If someone comes and tells you there is this deal, it will query. Today, you'll get money. Tomorrow, you'll get money. On the third time, you lose all that money. The one you got on the first deal, because now you've put in more money, because you trusted. Now you've put in the first money, the second money, now the third money has gone.
You know, I'll cut you short, I'm sorry. We had a show here one time of a structural engineer, a guy who did Entebbe Airport.
Yes.
And he's also the structural engineer for Ruparelia Group as well. And he said...
Here where I'm seated?
Yes, in that chair.
Yeah, I'm not a small woman also. You mean here where I'm sitting? There was a structural engineer of Entebbe Airport and Ruparelia Group.
Yes. So
I received the blessing.
Yes, and he's a young man, actually. He's a young man. And he mentioned, we asked him, I think 2 or 3 things that he has learned from being close to Sudhir. Now we know Sudhir is the richest person, etc. And he said the number one thing that he learned from the guy is, Sudhir says, don't rush to go into investments. Save your money.
Save money.
A better deal or another deal will come. Which is exactly what you're saying.
That's
Patience
exactly
and clarity of mind. Get your money
Exactly.
and save it. And keep patient. Watch it. Another day will come when you can invest this
That is
thing.
true. And people forget that Sudhir is Indian.
Yes.
The foundation of the wealth of Indians is saving. It's difficult to accumulate wealth. I've said it. But the reason that Indians have become wealthy mostly is because there are generations that were patient. They didn't want it for themselves. They wanted it for future generations. So there are generations in the Indian community that have never seen that money. But because they were saving, that generation died, the second generation died, the third generation starts. The third generation never starts from the third generation. They start from what the first generation built for them. Ugandans, especially some cultures more than others, what do they say? Even me, I started from scratch. My children will also start from scratch. Why should I hand them down? Even me, my father, didn't give me anything. That's a statement that needs to be changed.
It is true. When you see like in developed countries, you'll have the Indian family, the parents on the ground floor. Yes. When their kids become adults, they build second floor. When they get children, they build the third floor. When they pass away, they maintain the same thing. The business itself is on the very first floor.
That is it. And they're not paying rent anymore.
Yes.
Because now they own the building. Everything, that first floor is feeding 4 floors above. It doesn't have to be our way because we're different cultures. But the principle is the same. Yes. The principle is the same. How are you saving? How can you accumulate wealth? That is it. So when we speak investment, what is the goal? What is the goal? And our goals are all different. There should be a certain goal of wealth. There should be a certain goal of wealth. And if it's not yours, that's okay. That's fine. But what is the goal? So if you want businesses to come and collapse, you'll find yourself, they've called you and said, now there's this deal of gold. You've not done any research. You don't know anything, but because you have 10 million, never be willing to lose 10 million. Never. I have a friend who was telling us about, how he always has money to pay for school fees. But he admitted that this money I set it aside for school fees, but if a deal comes and it is within that money of school fees and I've not yet paid, I'll use it in the hope that I'll get it back before. And it has happened before and worked. And now it happened and it didn't work. And you see, when you get money, your capacity to put in more increases, your willingness to put in more increases, not necessarily capacity, but willingness, because you've got a high return.
And I think it's a psychological flow.
It's psychological. Yeah, it's psychological. There's nothing, it's not anything we can explain. It's not something I can come and tell you, don't do it. It's natural that I have got high returns, and the riskiest assets give the highest return.
Of course.
So now you've put in, someone has told you, in 2 months, in 1 month, we are going to get double, and it actually comes true. What do you think you're going to do the next time?
You get the whole thing.
You'll get the whole thing and put it there. And it might work also that time. Now that time. There is always a time it doesn't work. That time will always come. Ask anybody who diverts money meant for something else. There is always a time. If you're using the same money, that thing might not happen. So this person was telling us, Panari, I don't know how to go to my wife and explain to her that I don't have fees for this term because the money has gone. All of it just went like that. And we looked at him, and then we had a conversation on our WhatsApp group. And we realized that there was a clear divide between the genders on school of thought. 98.9% of the men on the WhatsApp group are dads. They're actually mostly dads. All of them said, for me, if a deal came to make me more money, of course I would put in my kids' school fees. And all the mothers on the group were in shock. You know, they were so shocked. And I love this because it showed us that we need the balance. We need the balance. Many women are risk averse and men are risk takers. But there needs to be a balance. Someone needs to be talking to somebody. If you want to make high return, you must take risk. But you have to know that there are consequences in case things don't pan out or things don't work out. So again, back to Herbert, back to your original question. If someone gave me 10 million today, 70% would go into safe, 30% would go into a hustle that I am interested in, that I like to do, that needs capital. And that's where I would start from. And
the 30% is enough capital for that particular venture?
It has to be enough. If it is not enough, I will get this money and put it in safe, a safe assets and wait. Or if maybe what I need is an extra 1 million, that's why I'm telling you that much as I'm saying these figures, they're not fixed in stone, they are guiding principle. That's when I could open room and say, okay, if I believe in this venture, I can do a 60% and a 40%, nothing more than that. If it's still not enough, I'll wait. I'll put this money aside and wait. Something else will come. I know if I have 10 million today, how did I get that 10 million? Something else will come and I'll get 10 million again. You know, we have this scarcity mentality. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's a scarcity and an abundance mentality. The scarcity mentality is the type where when you have something in your hand, you fear letting it go because you fear that that opportunity might never come again. So you go through life with closed palms. Abundance mentality is the type where God told the people who are following him, the Bible disturbs me. Was it Moses? Manna, that story of manna.
Yes, it was Moses.
Don't keep the grain
for tomorrow.
The manna for tomorrow.
You will have fresh.
And people kept. And what happened?
It rots.
It rots. That's just it's a scarcity mentality, and it's no one's fault in places where you've grown up in survival mode, in poverty, like in Uganda. If you've grown up in a less developed country, you're prone to that mentality. Yes. So when someone tells you, no, you will get 10 million tomorrow, it's difficult for you to interpret that because your money mindset is fixed to your growth mindset. It's fixed to your scarcity mentality mindset. It's fixed. So there are mindsets that you have to unlock first before you start making better financial decisions. You have to know, you have to think abundantly. Your arms should be open all the time and know where that came from, more can come. So let me wait. Instead of, hey, guys, I've got this 10 million. What am I going to do with it? Let me go and open this. What have you done with yours? What are you doing? The other one is working. Hey, now let me tell you, you come. We open this capital chicken. They are doing a what? You put in your money, everything pours. So we just have to learn to understand that financial discipline also comes. Our mindset has to be open. That you'll get it again. Don't worry. That money will come, and then you'll add that 10 million to the 10 million that you already had, and do something productive. That's my advice. And the safety ones I've advised, the SACCOs and the government security, treasury bills and bonds. And you can go through unit trusts, you can go through commercial banks. There are different regulated institutions now that are doing all that work. You just
as long as it is above
10,000. As long as about inflation, yes. So just do your due diligence and find out, is the return above inflation? That's the starting point.
Yes.
Then now you start to look for the ones which have competitive returns. An alternative also is a fixed deposit, which is with the banks as well. So that's another safe haven.
Briefly explain why it should be above inflation. Just briefly.
Because for as long as an economy is growing, inflation increases. Inflation is merely the rate of increase of prices over time. Prices must increase. They must. So inflation erodes the purchasing power of money. 100,000 today is not 100,000 tomorrow.
I know that for sure.
So it can never be. So right now, even if someone tells you come for your money today, Herbert, Never pick up the phone and say, okay, Patingamfa, let us meet tomorrow. Never. Because money today is always greater than money tomorrow. Find out if someone is paying you back money or giving you money, get it in that time that they are giving it to you. Because tomorrow there will be an eroded purchasing power. Yes. That's just it. The only change that we saw was in COVID, where prices, everything went down because there was no supply. There was no demand, so there was no supply. So inflation was low. The rate of increase of prices was very low. So you find that the purchasing power remains the same. So why it has to be above inflation is because you're using this in twofold. You're using it as savings and you're using it as investment. You don't want a time to reach. You've saved and invested for 10 years. And then you end up like that person who borrowed and said, I want 100 million. And before you know it, it now can only purchase 70 million. You always want to ensure that after any given period of time, that amount of money can purchase over and above what it could purchase today. That's why. And this money is why I advise people to go through collective schemes, is because the more you have, the more money you get. For example, if you put in 500,000 or 1 million shillings as an individual, the return doesn't look that great. But when a collective scheme gets everybody's 100,000, it becomes 100 million, it becomes 500 million, it becomes a billion, they get higher return. Yes. And they're able to distribute higher returns to you accordingly. That's why you must do your due diligence to find out what are these people, what is their return. So it must be over inflation, merely to ensure that you're not losing money. You're not losing money. That's really but that's bare minimum. Then now you start to look around and say, okay, I've seen this firm, this fund manager, I've seen this fund manager, get like 5. And they are regulated by Capital Markets Authority. If they are not banks, they are regulated by Capital Markets Authority. Even actually, the finance arm, the investment arm of banks is also regulated by Capital Markets Authority. So go to the Capital Markets Authority page. Find out they have a list of regulated, there are about 26 or so, there are many. And then pick out and ask questions. If you don't have friends who can give you this information, my friends tell me, I look at my friends and I tell them, you don't have to go to a podcast to hear me speak. I have information. You have my WhatsApp. I'm here. But I have more strangers calling me to ask me for information than you, who has my WhatsApp number. I have friends of mine. If you're trying to make financial decisions, especially when it comes to investing and in saving, you must have access to people. If you're not going to an expert, a paid expert, you must have people within your circle who are financially literate. And if you don't have a single person in your group who is financially literate, you're in the wrong group. You must change groups, I swear to you. Or keep that group and also add on another group where there's a financially literate person. I tell my friends, you have access to me. Me, I can give you information on managing your finances, because we have people in our group who help us see how we can get rich, but we also need to have people who can help us manage our finances. And I literally tell my friends, I need you to call me and ask me. I'm free. People pay me to give these talks. I'm offering it free and for you. And mine is free. It's a privilege that you're in my community. I don't charge my community for anything. I don't. And also, to be clear, you did not charge us. Yeah, when people also call me podcast, because the point is impact. There must be a goal. There must be a goal. And my goal for me, Herbert, is that I'm aware. So I'm putting in place habits and actions that are making me achieve financial success. And I don't want to leave anybody behind. So I'm not going to keep this information. I'm not. But I know that there are institutions that can afford to pay. That's why I like corporate. When those ones come, those are the people you should be saying thank you to. because those are the people who pay for you. I take their money fully and wholeheartedly because I must be paid for my investment.
Of course.
This is my investment. I've invested in myself. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. But I'm also aware that the people who need this information the most may not be able to afford it. How can you teach finances and then charge people? You're taking from them and giving. It makes no sense. So there are people who have budgets for this, and they're trying to empower their employees, their staff, their communities, and they have budget for it. And for them, it's just, we can't do it. So I take their money so that other people who come to me and give me a platform to speak to wider audiences, I can do it for free without the charge. Don't think I just do it because the investment is there. Until we're an investment.
Yes.
I capitalized, I've monetized my passion. I have monetized it. The impact, it motivates me to do even more. And yet at the same time, I'm making money from it. And that's it.
If someone is broke, they are broke, or at least they feel they are broke. They might not be, but they feel they are broke right now. What, top line advice you can give them?
First of all, there's a difference between being broke and being poor.
Okay.
There's a difference. Broke means that I have income that comes in that I've mismanaged. You can't be broke unless you had income. If you don't have income, you're poor. And for poor people, if you're poor, there's only one way out of poverty. You must just start something that generates income. That's it. There's nothing. Do research. Find out what gap you can fill. People will always pay for things. I see people on the road selling groundnuts.
Yes.
Why can't you sell groundnuts?
Yes.
Because banana babate?
Of course.
You find your equivalent of groundnuts that you can sell. People have decided to go and get, and you must start small. You must start small because remember, you're poor. That's a different category.
And obvious one.
This is the obvious one. We are poor. You must start small. Do what you need to do. Get a job. Find employment. You must dig deep within you and find something to do if you're an adult. This one of broke, it means that there was an income that was coming in or that is coming in, and is either not coming in anymore or not coming in as fast as it was anymore, or funds have been mismanaged. That usually means that you have no savings, because what savings would have done for you have been to manage this period for now as you try to get back on your feet. But now you don't have anything. This has warranted you broke. Then that means you have to go back to your spending habits. Go back and reevaluate what your spending habits are. Broke people are always living above their means. Always. For different reasons. People like that word middle income. They like to be thought of as middle income. Forgetting that in middle income, there is upper middle income, there is middle income, there is lower middle income. Lower middle income usually think that they can do what upper middle income people are doing, which they cannot. They hang out in the same places if they can't afford. You have to go back and look at your spending habits and start to cut out all those expenses. There's nothing wrong with a kafunda. Why can't you go and drink and eat from Nalongos? What's wrong with that? Until you can accumulate more to push you into those brackets. And even when you've been pushed into those brackets, were you dying at Nalongos? You are not dying. So what's the problem? For both categories of people, poor and broke, you must do research to find a gap to fill. There's a part where investing in your passion, putting in your passion and talent might not work because you need money quick. You need money now. Broke people also, let me tell you, you must have built community muscle. You can't be the broke person and also the bad-mannered one at the same time. As I tell people that if you're here in Uganda and you're broke and you cannot find somebody who can give you some money or support, you're the problem. Ewero, you can die. That's why Ewero, they have safety nets. They have those envelopes, packages that they can give you, welfare programs.
True.
There you can die because there's no one coming to save you.
True.
Uganda has one of the most loving and connected human beings. Even the person who doesn't have can scratch for you. But you have to be giving them something to use. Not everybody is given money just because. If you're really struggling, which is okay, you must have a support system that can help. And when that support system can actually helps you, the problem is in this country and in Africa, when you give, they become entitled.
Yes.
After entitlement, they become complacent. Instead of realizing that this is an opportunity I've been given, let me go and see what else I can do. They say, in the other one's house, they go and just sit there and eat and watch TV and then look inward and say, Munage me, I'm disadvantaged. That's how it is. They don't take accountability for their own actions. But as I started, each one of us has a talent. Don't be defeated. Don't be demotivated. I know that's what keeps us there. We end up getting depressed and then we stay perpetually broke. It's okay to wallow and say, Banage, look at that person. For them, they have me, I don't have. It's okay to do that temporarily, very temporarily. And then start thinking, what can I do? I have a friend. When we would go for birthday party, for our friends' events, she was in broke category. She sent, because she didn't have fear of Bananda Babati, we opened a WhatsApp group. In the WhatsApp group, we were about 13 members planning for a baby shower. She said, you guys, one, I can't afford to pay that contribution, which is being asked of us. We were each paying 150,000 shillings. I can't afford that money. But I want to be present. She's the one who helped to do the decoration at no cost. She's the one who, because as we could afford to buy the balloons to do this, she put her sweat into it. That's not where she stopped. She said, anybody who is coming with a gift, please don't wrap your gift. I'll wrap for you if you can just give me a humble 10,000 shillings. Oh. This is a friend in our circle. I was so impressed by her. This is a 40-year-old woman. I was so impressed by that level of self-awareness. To admit to yourself, I'm going through this struggle time, but I don't want handouts. She had already asked like 2 people for support and help, but immediately she started to think. And you see, for me, when I see somebody like that, I paid her 50,000 to wrap. When someone comes to me and says, I'm dying, I'm struggling, I'm suffering, please give me 10K, I give them 10K. When someone comes to me and says, I'll wrap your gift for you, if you can just give me 10,000 shillings, I'll give them 50. Because it shows me that this is a person with a certain kind of, they know where they are and they're taking accountability for where they are and they are trying to get out of it. That momentum, it needs to start from within you. No one else can put it in you. So that's what I would say. There must be a drive in you. Undress yourself. I think this might be easier for women than it is for men.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Yes,
I think so. Yeah. Yes. So maybe men would have to approach it in a different way, in a more delicate way that does not expose their ego. You know, I know men are very protective of their ego. So maybe it would have to be in a way that was more in line with the other.
I think even they should not even be protecting ego. It should be open surgery. You pull off the band-aid and just go.
And just go. Yes. That's what I feel. So maybe for men it would be like there's this deal of, you know, Herbert has here people around him who maybe learn a skill and see, you have a friend, you're 10 people here. You know that these people, not like me, Pumla, I may not be able to help you because I'm employed. But you have maybe 3 friends who hire people. You can learn a skill secretly. If you learn that I have a Hassan who is behind the camera, I can come to you and I say, by the way, I have this skill. Maybe we can see how we can work together. So that it's not really a case of you giving me money, you know. Be creative. Be creative. Brokenness needs creativity. You have to be creative. And then when when you get back on your feet, which you will if you do it well, when you get back on your feet, then you start practicing proper personal financial management.
What we're discussing.
So that you don't go back there. That is it.
I know we needed this show, but I know we really needed this show. There is a show I watched. There's this podcast in Nairobi, Leni Ngugi. She had
I love her.
You do?
Yes,
Okay.
I love
she
her.
had a finance lady on there. And the lady said a statement that stuck with me. She said there are different types of brokenness.
Okay.
She said there are two types of brokenness. Okay. She said, if you're broke after investing, that is separate from being broke after chewing the money. Right?
Broke after spending.
After spending, yes. Okay. A person who has invested and is now broke is talking a different language.
That's different.
From you who is broke after consumption.
That is true.
There is a different thing in this.
True.
And she said that just because someone has told you that they are broke, you should not jump to conclusions.
Don't jump to conclusions.
How are they broke?
This is true. This is
exactly what you're saying.
This is true. You can be broke today in preparation for returns tomorrow.
You've planted.
And that's fine. That's fine. And it would be fine now if you had practiced proper personal financial management because you did not invest the full.
You had some saving.
10 million.
Yes.
You had some saving. Because even the person who is broke after investing might be speaking a different language from you. But then there's also another grade of, guys, I'm broke, but I'm just too broke to enjoy my wants, my luxuries.
Yes.
That's what I'm broke for. But I had make a saving
I
can still cover these needs of mine. So broke comes in different shapes and sizes. You may be saying broke, yet you poor. Everyone may be saying broke, yet they are okay. It's just that they are not able to maintain the lifestyle right now that they did before.
Lifestyle. I'm sorry for cutting you short. You said I should not say that.
Don't apologize.
The issue of lifestyle, if you can touch on that, especially for the men, really, especially for the men, and I hope I don't get hatred for this, but there is the tendency for, the bars, the soccer, the side chicks, there is a whole lifestyle around this.
Yeah.
What can you say about this?
There are people who can afford that lifestyle, and it's fine. And it's there is no one. I heard this on what show? I wish I could get it. There is no man. It might be a podcast called Box Pod, but I might be wrong. There is no one who admires a rich man like another man. People think that it is women who look up to rich men. No. They are fellow men. There's no one who looks at them and feels like they are king and they also want to be king. So they start behaving like kings as well to fit in. There is a percentage of people in every economy that can afford that lifestyle. Me, I've told you, there are no wrong financial decisions, but are you ready for the consequences? Now there are people who have failed to get out of that problem of peer pressure.
Yes.
Peer pressure, remember, was in puberty, adolescence. Yes. That time we were teenagers. You've brought it into your 30s. You've brought it into your 40s. You're the one who will get broke. There's nothing wrong with that lifestyle. If that's what you decided should be your quality of life, that's all right. Can you afford it? And afford it meaning afford it sustainably. Sustainably. Now you who decides, the problem is the manyanga down here who are looking at rich man, at king, and trying to behave like that. That's where the problem comes in. That means that you're living beyond your means. And you're always going to end up in a trap, in a broke trap because of that. So that's a decision that you have to make. People like to go to the bars, they like to go. That's the economy. The night economy, by the way, there is a huge part of the night economy that supports the economy, the Ugandan economy. That keeps us moving. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you're not partaking in anything illegal.
Yes.
So when you see your friend with their side chick, the side chick suffered in COVID. They were not being looked after because people didn't have money. People were back home with their wives. They were not doing, there was nothing could be happening. These side doors had to go back to their parents' homes because no one was looking after them, and they could not provide the service anymore for which they were needed. They couldn't move. We were on lockdown, and that's when we saw the economy, the shift in the economy. People had to readjust themselves. So that economy, that lifestyle, it just has to be one that you can afford.
True.
That's it. But there is no lifestyle and it's okay to admire that lifestyle and want it for yourself and be ambitious enough to want it, but you cannot live it now if you can't afford it. And when I say afford, I mean sustainability. Sustainability meaning that you can afford that lifestyle for a year and more in case something happened to you today that made you lose your source of income or source of livelihood. So it shouldn't be a matter of, I can afford it now because I have money in the bank account and can take care of it. Have you ticked off all the other boxes? Do you have that savings? Do you have that investment? Are you taking care of your needs? Is your percentage budgeting gap reflective of what you're doing? And are you working every day to grow those means so that you can sustain that lifestyle? That is it. There are people, by the way, Herbert, let me tell you this. There are people who go to those bars and they seemingly look like they fit in those classes, and they are spending no money at all. I have a friend of mine who I asked one time, but that guy, he always comes here. I've never seen him pay a bill. He's the one who lives the fullest and the drunkest. How is it that you guys still entertain him? He said exactly what I said before. Contributions don't have to be financial. In a circle of friends, you can't all be people who can afford. You can't all be at the same level of income. But there are things he brings to the table. Let me tell you, I sat at a table with that man one time and I understood why they pay his bills. He's the funniest man in the world. They need his company. He's such good company that he hangs out with them. You need him there. These rich men would be the ones even calling him. He never spend.
He brings the life.
He brings the life to the party. When so rich people, there's like a level above which people have their heads. They can't even speak like normal people. They can't even have a real decent conversation. They're out of touch with reality. So they need these people who can, pull certain things. Others are the ones who are doing errands for them. They don't pay a single thing. Now for you come thinking that person maybe is paying also, is in that, so you also want to be there and fit in. You're paying your bill. The bill comes back, it has 36 million for one night. Then they say, let us take it around. Before you know it, you've paid 3 million shillings for the night until they've split. The other two who you thought were in your category haven't paid a cent. But and
they will be invited.
And they are the ones who will be invited. You're the one looking. They
could even have been the ones ordering. And
even the ones ordering. Very good. When you don't have money, you must find out what your talent is. It doesn't mean that you don't hang out with people who have. You can, but you can't spend the way they spend. You can't. Because there are people who can afford. There's a percentage of people, Ugandans, Africans, world over, who can afford that lifestyle. But if you can't,
keep your lane.
Keep your lane. Sometimes just go there and laugh, hello. But at the end of the day, that's not your category. That's not your category. You'll get broke for nothing. So find your level, find your lane, be there when it comes to other interactions. And let me tell you, those people also find their levels above you. They try to bring you in, but it's very difficult. It's difficult to move. It's lonely at the top. I'm sure you've heard. It gets very lonely at the top because the higher you climb financially, economically, you mingle with a smaller number of people.
True.
You start to think different. There's a certain paranoia that comes. You don't know what the people around you want from you. You don't know. There's a trust that's lost. So you find yourself keeping a certain, and even if they want to be with you, sometimes it's not always possible all the time. And they're not doing it because they've become rich. It's just natural. It happens. And even you start to look at them different as well. You enter the house, You see, every room is self-contained. You don't know
You
how to
can't really
behave.
touch.
You can't touch. You don't know what to touch. You don't know that your rent is in a plant. Your entire rent that is standing there in a plant. The rent for the year is in a plant. So so you have to respect the differences. Respect the differences. It's okay to respect them. It's okay to, and then just stick to your lane and what you can afford. Mental independence is key. Mental independence is key. Yeah, those are my words. Again, I want to remind you that this is personal financial management.
Yes, the disclaimer
Not
was very clear.
everything that I say applies to you, but the foundation, the principles, they are guiding principles which we should all be able to live by and follow through. And then for you, when you say, this one is not working for me, try something else and find what fits your personality.
You mentioned that your dad had a hand in training you for financial literacy, or at least exposure in this field. But the passion with which you're speaking, I believe, goes beyond just the training he gave. I know in the schools, the financial literacy part is not there. Or at least by the time I went to school, it was not there. Where do you get the passion? Where do you get the intensity to do this, the way you're doing it?
The true self of people is usually exposed in times of adversity. That's when you really learn. That's when growth really happens. That's when you learn who you truly are. My dad didn't really teach me how to manage money. Not at all. I come from a home where my dad is a spender, my mom is a saver. And the balance works. So I saw both, and I veered more towards my dad because I was learning, if you want to spend money, you must make it. So that's the mindset that I had. There are two main experiences in my life that made me realize how important it is for me to be financially aware. The first one was when my dad retired. My dad retired, and yet all his children were still going to school. And for me, immediately it was, how are you going to look after us? The word savings did not even ring in my mind. It was just, how are you going to look after us? His firstborn, I was a secondborn. Two of us were in university. The elder ones, myself, my brother and myself. Two were in high school, Nalule and Nambatia. And we had a sister in primary 7, Longusi. So I didn't understand there was definitely going to be change. But it was just going through my mind, but it didn't do anything for me. What really did something was when my father invested. He decided, when he was retiring, he was working corporate, had a good retirement package. He also had savings, but he decided to venture into a very risky business, and he lost all his money. All the money, now all he had was pension to look after 5 children who he has maintained at a certain lifestyle in expensive schools. That day was the first day I saw my mother's mom. When I realized how bad things had gone, I saw my father get depressed. But when I knew how bad things had gone. I come from a traditional home. In my home, I had never seen my mother's money. Never. I used to think my mother is a lecturer. She has a PhD in food science and nutrition, but I have never seen her money. I saw it when I was in second year university. My mother getting money out of her purse and saying, "This is your pocket money for the second semester." That's when I knew things were bad. My dad was beside himself. And this risky venture, there were some legal issues around it. So now he was even spending that little savings which he had to fight court battles. My mother took care of us for a bit there until my dad started to get back up on his feet. That lesson, that first lesson experience, taught me two things. The first one being that you must save. You must save. You must have an emergency fund to save. The second one was you must invest. For a time when you are not able to make money anymore, there must be investments. My father's investment was risky and he might have lost his money, but the principle remains. There must be investment. Maybe he didn't do the proper research that he needed to do. I don't know where the gap there. I mean, that's what taught me about research. Do research, do something that you like. My dad invested in that venture because it was the upcoming thing at the time. Forgetting that when the money came to him, there were bigger fish that had already identified that idea and had
ready.
They had put a boundary,
a
hedge around it. So by the time he joined, he was now a very small fish and the investment was a lot. And now he needed these other people to help pull him up, and the rates were very expensive. So it taught me that when it comes to investment, be cautious. Do due diligence. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. When it came to saving, it taught me that you must save for a rainy day. You must have an emergency fund, because if that goes wrong, what's your backup? Because it can't go wrong. You might be all those things. You may be cautious. You might have done market research. You might think everything is ticked, but it still goes wrong. Then what? That's when I learned saving. And that's when I actually started to do some kind of saving. That was my first experience. The second experience that did for me the 180-degree impact was when I found myself in a home, in a marriage that was unhealthy, and I made the decision to leave the home. The marriage, I like to make this clear because you have a new audience here. People who know me kind of know the dynamics, but that relationship was unhealthy for the both of us. I was not the one suffering. Both of us were suffering, and we had come to a point where we realized we are not good together anymore. We must separate. But I found myself staying in the home for an extra 3 months. 6, I think. I accumulated 3 months rent. This was 14 years ago, so sometimes I get the timing wrong.
Extra time.
But I know for sure that I stayed in that home for an extra 6 months because I did not have enough savings to allow me to leave at the time when I knew I should have left. And that experience was so personal to me because I was a central banker. I had one child. My husband used to provide in the home. I never used to spend any money. The only money I spent was on my child to buy him clothes. I used to buy the, first child problems. You buy the most expensive coat. Your husband has told you, we don't need to buy that Fisher Price. We don't need to buy that brand. You want everything that's great for your firstborn child. So I realized a lot of my money had gone into spending on Huggies. Yet I could have bought maybe a cheaper brand, And even that one, there were needs. My husband paid things. I sat one day and asked, where is my money going?
And you go every day to work.
I go to work every day.
You get paid on time.
I get paid on time. I've never missed. I can look after myself. But why can I not pay rent? I looked, I had some money, but it couldn't cover. So I started saving. That's when I really learned the principle of save as you earn. I started saving my money and putting it aside as I planned my exit. Then I reached a point at my 3 months mark when I was like, most people ask for 3 months rent. Now when I had enough of 3 months, I decided, let me go and look for a place to stay. When I got my place to stay, they asked me for an extra month of deposit, 4 months. I said, now, my mind was made up. It was time to leave, I'm going. I couldn't spend another day in the house. And my husband had looked at me and said, I'm staying in this house. If you want to go, you go. If you're the one who's tired, you go. I'm here. I said, okay, it's fine. I'm going away. I went to my mom and I asked her, Mom, I have this issue. I have this problem. It's not something that I've declared, I know this is, but I need money. I needed 600,000. It was 600,000 a month. I needed 600,000. This was a long time ago. It was a lot of money also.
So of course, even today it is.
Even today, it's still a lot of money. I was 25 years old with a child in my hand. I went to my mom. My mom told me, Pumla, it's okay, you can have this money. And I told her, Mom, I'm going to pay you back. I don't expect this to be a gift. That was the first time I had ever borrowed money in my life. That taught me about debt, managing my debt. Because now, this man had been providing for us. Now I had to factor in the fact that if I leave this home, something might change in him and he's not able to provide for the child. You hear that? For me, I'm a single mother. I didn't want to be that person who always starts their sentence with, you know me, I'm a single mother. It attracts a certain kind of weakness in a person that you had a child that you could not look after for yourself. Like, weren't you present when you were having the child? So when my mother gave me that money, I told her, I'll pay you back if you can just give me time. I went to the place where I could pay my money. But at the point of paying that money, something else struck. Somebody had taken the house, but on the same day, a friend of mine had called me, who I had told I'm looking for a house, and said, Pumla, there is a house here, but they're asking for 6 months rent. And when I went to the house, now, the other house was good, but I didn't believe it was value for the money of 600K, but I needed to leave, and it was available, and it was around my child's school. This other one, which was asking for 6 months, was the price. Perfect. It was perfect for everything I needed. At that point, I wondered, now where do I go? I have a brother who I decided, you know what, let me ask my brother. But my brother is just a year older than me. It's like, why am I encumbering this brother of mine? I have a very close aunt. This aunt, I went to her and I said, I have this struggle. I'm getting a divorce. Me, I didn't even know anyone who was divorced at that time. I'm going through a divorce. I don't have enough. These are the facts. I have 4 months rent. I need 2 more months. But I'm going to create a repayment plan to give you. I'm not earning as much now, and I don't know what the future holds. So I'm not going to promise that I can give you big chunks at a go. It may take me a period of time. That's another thing when it comes to debt. You must be honest with yourself and honest with the person who is giving you the money. Some people go to these people and say, I will pay like this, and you give me, I'll pay in 3 months, and they're not able to pay. So I literally told her, it may take me up to 5 years to repay. I need 1.2 million. And she said, Pumla, it's okay. Actually, I told her, if you can give me 600, because I knew if I get from my brother, it's a softer landing. She called me to her office the next day, and she had the 1.2 million in the envelope, and said, when you're ready, you pay me back, but you don't have to. But me, my argument, I didn't want to be indebted to anyone. I didn't want people to have power over me. I got that money, paid my 6 months rent, and I tell you, Herbert, I moved out of that house. I called my friends who used to have these MTN pickups. I didn't have money to pay to move. I didn't have money to buy furniture. I didn't have money for anything. I moved with my mattress, and I slept in that house with my child on a mattress. My child had a bed. I took his bed from the house. That's what I took, his bed and the appliances I knew he needed. I took the fridge, I took the cooker. I felt like my child needs this. I'm not going to put my child in jeopardy just because. Me, I had nowhere to sleep. We had no chairs. We had no seat. We had nothing. When visitors would come, they would sit on the floor. Mental independence. Not fearing
I love it.
what people are going to say because you have no furniture in your house. I had no curtains. I had no curtains. I would hang a central bank. I would sleep on my mattress, and then with time, because I needed to pay back these people. That was the first thing on my mind. Why are you enjoying a life of luxury? And yet there are people you owe money to. And after doing the repayment, I started now to acquire things for myself. That was where everything tided over. That's really what put the boat together. That You can find your place. Most Ugandans live in financial uncertainty. You can lose a job. Your business can pour anytime. You can have an emergency. You hear people all the time saying car wash, medical emergency. There are things that can happen that have nothing to do with what you've planned out for your life, that are not your fault, that are not a decision you've made. Anything can go wrong. Your partner who you've been relying on as a married woman can die. And yet you are relying entirely on them. And you don't have money set aside. All these things started to go through my head. That's when I learned that we must be able to prepare and set money aside for both expected and unexpected events. My passion to teaching this, and then I started to build for myself. It started with savings. I started to save. Saving gave me a confidence I had never felt in my life. I found myself, because of what I had gone through, I was anxious. Because in my mind, I was thinking of something else can change tomorrow.
True. And I go back.
You know, when you've been poor or broke,
yes.
You don't want to go back.
Yes, of course.
You don't. So I was like, there must be a way. There must be a way that I can take control of my money. There must be. I'm not the poorest. I have a good head on my shoulders. How could I end up in this situation? And yet I know for a fact that there's a whole percentage of Ugandans who are not as educated as I am, who are not as privileged, who haven't had the same opportunities as I have. Now imagine if for me I'm failing and I'm an economist. If I'm not meeting my economic obligations, what about the rest of the world? So I took time off and started putting things in order, experiencing certain things. I started, my first date I built a house where I saved money to build a house. I said, this thing made me so anxious. I always said in my head that at 30 years old, I will have a home for me and my child that nobody can chase me out of. And by the time that period came, I needed just a little more to add on to be able to meet, to have the money I want. I went back to the rule. If something happens, am I able to repay back that percentage of the loan I need for mortgage? Am I able to? Because I saved. So I didn't have to go to the bank for an entire mortgage. Mortgages are expensive. You can't afford them in this country. They're too expensive. Abroad, it's 0.2%. Here, you're getting a mortgage of 26%. So when I started to see that everything I was doing was bearing fruits, I was like, why don't people learn this? Why should I be the only one who knows about this? To add one better, Bank of Uganda started offering classes, external, they were both external and internal. So they would give every quarter about 30 to 40 people would be put in a class for 2 weeks, and they were taught financial literacy. And I was a cohort. I was so interested. And I was like, there are things I know I'm practicing, but there must be a theory. There must be a theory.
Some guidelines.
That are clear.
The template.
There must be a template, a marking guide, which I can use as a North Star. When I attended that course, it changed my life. It changed my life. I think that was 2015, if I've got it right, 2015, about there. 2016, it changed me completely. It literally equipped me with tools that I could equip other people with. It put words to my practice. There are things that you do, and it took me a long time because nobody had taught me. I was teaching myself. So I said, me who has taught and experienced, why don't I come and talk to people so that they don't have to take 10 years to learn what I have learned? Because it took me 10 years to struggle, to go through dust, to be able to come out on this side. But if I come and tell you my story, if I come and give you tools, I give you knowledge, I give you confidence to make better financial decisions for yourself, you don't have to, 2 months are enough. Now you've learned, now start applying so that you can reach financial success even faster. And I swear to you, I have seen the testimony. And every time I see, I'm motivated even more by success stories, by testimonies, people who I don't know come into my DMs and tell me what they're doing, and tell me what they've done, how equipped they've been, what the decisions are making are changing their lives. There's a rush of endorphins. There's like an ephemeral, there's hormones that just
Positive
go off, that just go off and ring supreme. And I'm like, we are changing it. Let's all do better together. But people can't do better if they don't know better.
This is why you push your friends so much.
That's why I try to push. I try, but do they listen? I try to push them. We get them into investment groups, get them into these circles, get them to join real estate clubs. But I've realized I speak better to people who don't know me than people who actually do know me. The delivery. People learn more. To me, that's where my passion came from. Mine started from women, if I'm being honest. I'm a woman's advocate. I advocate for women. I love men. I love men.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear, yes. I love men. Yes. But I've always found that when it comes to economic situations, women tend to take the shorter end of the stick because we've been taught to rely on men. And when something goes wrong or when something goes south, we are the more vulnerable parties. We always think that, because maybe I loved this person, they'll continue taking care of me. They don't know that there's a thin line between love and hate. There's even a thinner line between life and death. There's an even thinner line between healthy and unhealthy. You can become maimed. You don't necessarily die, but you might lose. You can become incapacitated. Anything can happen, and we don't know. We don't know. But then in my journey as I've grown, I've realized that if men don't understand what we're going through, then they'll never come on board. They'll always think we are fighting them. So I started to speak to both men and women. I speak to women mostly, but then you can't speak to people in isolation. We need to be on a round table and speak together and understand each other. And that's when I started to see that there was actually more mileage, because when a man gets understanding, men live in communities with women. And when a woman gets understanding, then we both understand each other, what we need to do, and then we move together. And that for me is financial harmony. And that's what another thing I'm really trying to push for. Financial harmony between the genders, understanding our differences and what we bring to the table, and seeing how we can find some middle ground for both of us to coexist, So for me, that's really where my motivation comes from, and the motivation grows every day. Every day. That's why when people call me to speak, I don't ask them any question. The only reason I won't come is because I'm unavailable, or it's really clashing with my times. But when people ask me to come and talk to them, I come.
Date and time.
I just date and time, location. I look through, am I able to? If I'm able to, I come. If I'm not able to, and that's really because someone has called me for something extreme. But otherwise, I try.
You also help, I know you mentioned the corporates. Do you also help personal, one-to-ones? Do you have those?
I don't have the capacity. That's why I do groups. I don't have the capacity.
Do you have
to
like a
to
school,
people individually.
maybe?
No, I don't.
Have you thought about that?
I have
the
thought
same
about
thing that you
it.
had for 2 weeks at the bank. If you open something monthly,
to train people.
To train
that
people.
I have thought about, mostly online. Again, the resources that are required to do it is where the problem is. But so I thought maybe I can do something online, though I prefer to engage with people and speak to them. So I have found that because I am employed, my calendar is full. And then I plug in when people invite me, I put that inside. So that fills my calendar even more. So what I need to do is now to prioritize that. I have thought about the school and dismissed it for 3 years now. Because there's a holdback there that I've not yet managed to navigate. But once I do, and that's why I said sometimes it needs it's just the right timing. I know what I want to do. But maybe it's not the right time for me to do it. I'd always said, even this financial, and people, I have been on this journey for years now, but I didn't have the time to come out. I've now been on this thing for 3 years because now my son is in high school. My priority had always been my child. So I was not even able to come to many speaking engagements because I had a responsibility. But now that he's in high school and he's in boarding, is when I'm more available and open to talk to people. So I always felt like maybe having that school might be too much for me. I would need a little bit more time to understand certain ropes. There's a season for everything. So right now I'm being patient about it. I'm thinking it through. When something unlocks, I know that I'll be there. But because I'm also enjoying interacting with people in a space that is not demanding of me. I don't know if you understand what I mean. I think it might be
it actually is demanding, but because you have so much passion for it, it feels
like
it is not
demanding.
But it does demand your time.
It does demand a lot of my time. I feel like the demand would increase tenfold if it was now my thing. You see, you've called me here today. Somebody has called me to go to Ujagali next week on Friday. Somebody has called me to go to Sinop to talk to them. I'm passionate about it, but I don't have to plan. They're the ones doing the planning.
True.
And then me, I just come and execute. But when I feel like when I start my own thing, I must be in a mental headspace that now I know I'm the plan. I am the thing. It is my thing, and it will run as I want it to run. And that's more demanding because now I'm not just the speaker. I'm not just the giver of information. Now I'm also the background. And I'm not yet ready for that. Yeah. So I think at the right time. At the right time. I've told people that they tell me, Pumla, you just don't want to become rich. Tell me, Pumla, I have a friend who told me, Pumla, you're going to die poor. I've seen you. You're going to die poor.
They assessed the whole situation and came with this finding.
You're going to die poor.
Because of this
decision. This decision you're making. You're going to just keep giving of yourself, yet you can make money out of it. And I know that to be true. But I'm still enjoying the giving. So let's see how that goes.
Well, Pumla, I would love to really thank you for coming on the show. I have definitely learned a lot. I know our viewers have also learned a lot. You came highly recommended. But after talking to you, it is very clear why this was so. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your insights. We wish you great success. Continue teaching people about financial literacy and generally really, really wish you well.
Thank you, Herbert. Thank you for thinking about me. And I appreciate that you took the recommendation and for just giving me a space to encourage people to do better and just to be better as overall human beings. Thank you.